Meow meow. Meow meow. I restarted the stream because I don't think it was working earlier. I hope it's working well now. And paalala lang hindi suggestion. Ingat bukas ingat bukas. Magpapasolsol. Like it's not reflecting somehow, no? Wala. Yun. The one earlier wasn't working. Yeah. Meow 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 meow. Oh, I didn't know they can climb there. I didn't know they can climb there. Meow 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 meow. It's the Taiwan Digital. I hate that thing. Triple barrel. Excuse me.
Die haben uns eine Kette abgeschossen. Wir stecken fest. Wir haben die Kette repariert. Na los! Wir haben sie. Motor wurde beschädigt. Er zieht nicht mehr. Wirkungstreffer. Noch so eine und die sind fertig. Motor kaputt. Wir können uns nicht mehr bewegen. Motor ist repariert. Wir können aber nicht mehr so schnell fahren. Wir haben sie nicht mal angekratzt. Wir haben sie voll erwischt. Wir haben sie voll erwischt. Voll. Wir sind erledigt. Raus hier.
I'm a big fan of Mother V3 because of the aesthetic. in the model. I like her older model, the shorter hair.
Verloren. Wir sind bewegungsunfähig. Kette wieder funktionstüchtig. Los geht's. Volltreffer. Wir haben sie voll erwischt. Eine unserer Ketten ist zerstört. Wir sitzen fest. Volltreffer. Wir haben die Kette repariert. Fahr los. Gegnerisches Fahrzeug ausgeschaltet. Wirkungstreffer.
I'm gonna be by myself.
Eine unserer Ketten ist zerstört.
Oh, Dicken.
Wir sitzen fest. Wir haben die Kette repariert. Fahr los.
Just needing to do hull damage.
Die haben uns eine Kette abgeschossen. Wir stecken fest. Kette wieder funktionstüchtig. Los geht's. Motor wurde beschädigt. Er zieht nicht mehr. Wir haben sie. Fahrer verwundet. Wir können nicht mehr so schnell
Come
fahren.
on. Oh, freaking hell, I'm gonna
Wieder
die.
funktionstüchtig.
This guy's good. Very good.
Fahrzeug
They deserve the win.
Pero sa buenas, pag inulan, hindi malas yan. Talagang malulunod ka sa mga bonuses at rewards dito. Ano pang naantay nyo? Register na!
Look at the beautiful New York streets. Don't you love it, Ronald? Look at all these people. The f you looking at, bitch? Ronald, how many people do you think I could hit before I get stopped by the police?
Cheer 100 hit all of them. No one can stop V3.
True, Ronald, you're right. Nobody can stop me. Nobody can stop.
Cheer
That guy's
100
driving
if you
too
press the
close to
little
me
F
with
key
motorcycle.
over to your right, it turns
You
on
motorcycle
autopilot.
man. Does it really turn on autopilot? If I push F, it will autopilot the car. And it's fine.
Cheer 100 alright, chat. Let's go to McDonald's with her credit card. Cheer 100 I'm gonna get some nuggies. In.
Ronald drove around the streets of New York City heading towards McMooney's. After about 30 minutes, Mother was able to catch up.
Alright chat, it's 106 miles to Chicago. We've got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's not dark out, and we're not wearing sunglasses. Let's hit it. Cheer 100. The car became less flat
What the
for
f,
some reason.
Ronald? You know I can stop time,
I can
right?
explain.
Explain.
I thought there was a stick walking up to the car.
Just drive, dumbass.
I
Ronald
don't
the
have a
chat wants
license.
to go to McMooney's. As long as you
Alexa,
get
order
this.
69 Big
As long
Macs.
as you can't just order 69 Big Macs.
Located
Do you have
MC
the money for
Mooney's.
that?
Arriving in T-10 minutes. I also sold the headlights for Genshin pulls. All
Happy
4
birthday,
stars.
Shiro. Wait a
When
second.
did Ronald's voice
Did you just
change
say
and
we
why?
don't have any freaking headlights? Oh dear God.
We don't need headlights, it's daytime.
Yes, I'm flat.
Who
but
was
there's
that?
this funny thing that
Do
happens
you know
later
him?
on in the day called darkness.
Ronald had severely miscalculated how long it would take to get to McMooney's. Mother and Ronald have now been driving for 32 hours with no break. They decided to stop by a local gas station and get some cheap burgers for the road.
What the fudge are you doing in my car? Get the fudge away from my car, bro.
Wurde getroffen.
Hey buddy in the blue shirt, back off, this is my CR.
Ronald, I'm scared.
They're just checking out my whip
That's
mother.
why-
It's a sign of respect.
See?
Wir haben sie nicht mal angegriffen. Die haben uns eine Kette abgeschossen. Wir stecken fest.
Get him away, he's a giant.
Sie sind fertig. Wir haben die Kette repariert. Fahr los. Wir haben sie
Oh
voll
God, what the
erwischt.
fudge is going on?
Da ging voll durch ihre Panzer.
They're flipping my car. Help me. I didn't know they
Oh god, elbow Elden Ring boss. Bet you wish the ejector seats were turned on right now, huh?
Ronald, I think we need to get out of here.
Twist his cock off. I think he just cut our brake
Drive,
line.
Ronald, drive. Drive, get the fudge out. Oh my God, you saved us, Ronald. Saved.
Take the wheel,
Good
I'm
night,
pulling for
Uncle.
Robin.
Okay, you pull for Robin, I can drive. Don't worry. Let me know how the pool's going.
I'm scared with mother at the wheel.
Don't need to be afraid, I'm a good driver. We need to get hamburgers for the back. I don't see any burgers back here. I don't see a single hamburger in the back. Can you drive for a second, Ronald, while I look for the burgers? I don't see them here.
No.
Drive the fudging car, Ronald.
TV said driving
Maybe
cars
they're back
is a
here.
scam.
Oh, shoot. I think I'm stuck in the trunk. Ronald, can you get me out? Ronald, let me out.
Imagine being stuck in a truck. Cringe, am I right?
Ronald, pull over right now and let me out.
No.
Let me out, darling.
Ronald left Mother stuck in the trunk of the car while he pulled for Robin with her credit card. After about 2 hours of driving non-stop, Mother and Ronald arrived at McMooney's. Mother was stuck in the truck for so long that she learned a new language.
Chad, me muero de hambre. Mi barriga está retumbando muy fuerte.
We need to hurry, the stench from the truck began to be intolerable.
Oh, Dios mío, estamos aquí.
What the f do you
How did we
want?
end up in the void? I thought I made the correct
Hola,
turn.
es McMooney's.
No, you're banned.
When did they start hiring iPad kids in McMooney's?
¿Por qué? ¿Estoy baneado?
The
She gets 5
McMunsters.
gifted subs.
Maldita
I'll allow
sea.
her to put one toe into McMooney's, but just one
Well
toe,
then,
and
if
then
we
she's
don't
getting
get our
kicked out
cheeky
again.
nuggies, we are
She's
gonna
getting
eat staff
kicked
cheer
out
100.
again.
Thank you, Shanks, for gifting
There we
5
go.
tier
Okay,
1
you may now
subs.
put one toe. You're allowed to put 2 toes into the fucking restaurant.
¿Puedo comer una
Hello.
hamburguesa, por favor?
That is not 2 toes. That is more than 2
Thank you,
toes.
Afra.
Can I get a
Put my-
burger, please? I'm really hungry.
Money, get off my head.
Place your order. Hurry up.
Can I have 757 quadrillion, 357
Cheer
trillion,
100, I just pooped in the trash
647
barrel.
billion, 211 million, 273,464 chicken nuggets?
I want a long
I don't
chicken.
know how to do math. I don't know math.
Can I have a lot of chicken nuggets?
Yes, I'll give you 5.
Can you ask Money if the ice cream machine is working?
Is my ice cream machine working, Money?
No, it's broken still.
You mean to tell me I drove all the way over here
Why is
for
it
a
always
broken
broken?
ice cream machine?
Yes.
You made Ronald very sad.
Fuck.
Hey, where's the
I came all
confetti?
this way for you, not for Mother.
Hide,
I have
I
a car
forgot.
outside if you want, and we can leave Mother here.
Confetti
No, you
in your
can't leave
face
me
and
here.
get it
Where are you
forever.
going, Chad? Don't leave
I'm
me.
not.
D, isn't that
Why-
nice of
Why
Mooney?
am I in the car?
Cheer 100.
Why am I in the car?
Ronald drove from McMooney's all the way back to New York City with Mooney in the car. However, what Ronald didn't expect was for Mother to be able to run so fast that she caught up to the car. I guess you can really run fast when you are 6'12" pure muscle.
I
Cheer
literally
100.
just got
Hey,
done
Mooney,
streaming
do you
for
know
like
how to
4
eat
hours.
fork
Why am I
sideways?
taking over her stream?
How to
Wait.
eat
Hey,
fork
Mooney, do you know how to
sideways.
drive well?
Wondering
Yes,
about it.
I'm the world's best driver.
She doesn't know that I'm a stowaway in the back.
I
I
don't know
thought
what
my
that
life
means.
was already in danger when B3 is driving. I never
I don't know what that
expected to
means.
get any worse.
That means
Cheer
nothing
100.
to me.
Are we there yet?
They're saying you're a worse driver
RB
than I
the
am.
fucking world.
They don't fucking know how I drive. I'm the world's best driver. Watch my
Looks like you're
Sonata
speeding.
I am. Listen, good drivers speed so they can get where they're going faster, obviously.
So
Some
what do you
people.
think
Is
about
the
that
iPad.
booster seat I gave you? Does
I don't
it
have
feel
a fucking
comfortable
booster
for
seat.
you?
I don't actually. Yes, my chat says I sound like a 13-year-old boy.
You sound like a cross between Timmy Turner and Naruto. Can you scream?
Okay.
Believe it.
Cheer
I think
100
on this
Money.
point,
I hope
I
you
am
feel
going
better.
to let you handle this.
We
I
love
am
you as
going to
much
go
as we
nap.
love
Play
you.
with you later.
Believe
I might block you. Okay.
Scream, believe
Bye.
it.
Bye. No.
Oh God, Ronald.
Cheer
please
100
take the
Wade
wheel.
boys driving.
Thank you, Ronald. Chad, I just
What if I
realized
slow down and drive like a Christian?
There ain't no fudging way you just said that. Ain't no
A little high
fudging way you
cocoa.
just said that, Ronald.
I think we
I
both
love you,
need to go
Tom.
relax for
I
a
hope
little
you
bit,
have a
Mother.
great day. Take care of
Activates
yourself.
all ejector seats.
Oh God, not the ejector seat.
Throw that donkey in a circle time. How mine didn't work. Tries driver ejector seat again.
If you see this bar on the bottom right here, you can see we're so close to hatching this egg. When we hatch it, there's a prize inside, and it's gonna be really fun. Let's start.
Ahoy! Tagging Fantasielandsung.
Are you ready for solve this problem? Find out what's inside the egg. I'm so excited! We have 4, and take away 3 is 1. Let's put 1 and let's check.
4 minus 3 is equal to 1.
Way to
Good
go!
job! You're all done with the pretest.
Yay!
Bronx, you don't think I'm a kid.
Hello, Bites. I am very excited for today. I hosted a PowerPoint presentation contest for my chat. The very best PowerPoints were chosen and given $100 Steam gift cards. I didn't expect all of the submissions. Some were great, and some were... well, yeah, check it out. Alright, so first, why my ass is fatter than these ass.
Because it is.
Presentation of random things I still remember. Oh, look. It's when he followed. How the f*** do you have this screenshot? Bro took that screenshot to show his therapist when mental health went downhill. You know, it's funny because I see people sometimes in the YouTube comments say things like, I miss when Mother V3 wasn't as unhinged as she is now. And I'm like, I always was. Oh god, not this stream. Oh god. This is a stream I'd like to forget. I think this was the one where I dislocated my
Gegnerisches Fahrzeug ausgeschaltet.
And this is to go even further beyond. Oh, I'm gonna fall. I think I broke my ankle. Okay guys, I'll keep you updated.
Oh god, please don't tell me. Is this a PowerPoint on why I should play Final Fantasy? Okay, convince me. Slightly convinced. Wait a second. I think you might have convinced me. I mean, listen, chats. Bunny girls are cool and all. But this is the convincing factor. Please, for the love of God, choke me inches from my life. Look forward to playing this game with one hand.
We here at the Trimagis Collective have taken a particular interest behind the individual known as Mother V3, an artificial intelligence program tasked with running an online code simply known as the Hive, and its books are only secondary. However, our research and development division has noticed a very particular question appearing amongst members of this cult. That being the question, just how grounded in reality is the avatar of Mother V3 to her counterpart? Or, to put it in much simpler terms, is Mother V3 flat? As you can see, at the start of the graph, the thicker the individual's avatar is to be, the more likely it is to be just as, if not thicker, than the individuals themselves. Up to a point. Through this
Man,
observation,
it gets boring though. The subject matter.
They'll never. She said they'll never believe you. Dude, Coco, I am so close. I am so close to showing these DMs. She's deleting it. 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 She's deleting it, chat. She's deleting it. She's deleting it all.
We're gonna do a little show and tell today. This is my college degree. Wow, look at that. It says Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Digital Production. Isn't that cool? Isn't that pretty sweet? I've got a bachelor's degree. Probably one of my most frequently asked questions.
Maybe, I don't know. You know, when I graduated psychology, my first job was cook. I was a cook at a gourmet restaurant. I can't believe they let me work there as a cook. And then eventually I became the assistant to another company, to the general manager. It was also in the food industry. So you can say I practiced, but psychology isn't required for that. So I don't know. Maybe get. I don't wanna give advice.
Is how I got to be this. Why am I 32 years old and unemployed if I've got a bachelor's degree? Am I stupid for getting a bachelor's degree in art? Are all BFAs useless? Why did everybody get laid off? Is the 3D industry viable? Did 9/11 happen, or was that just clever VFX compositing? Should you be a 3D artist? Am I good at compositing? Am I responsible for 9/11? There are a lot of little events that transpired over the last couple of years that resulted in me being broke and living with my parents again. Some of them are definitely my fault. Some of them are due to pretty predatory practices in the industry at large, and some of them are just because the economy is really, really bad, and I just wanted to talk about that. A lot of you that watch my content are doing so because you've recently enrolled in a VFX production program yourself, or you're thinking about it, or perhaps you're in the same situation as me and you're trying to do an autopsy on what the hell happened here. It's hard to get the full truth out of people who participate in the industry because a lot of them have some pretty bad Stockholm syndrome about it. Even I used to be pretty cagey about admitting how bad things really were. But just like Neo in the Matrix, I've been butt-chugging red pills for a while now, and I'm here to save you from yourself. I'm here to potentially save you from yourself and the lies that these people in the industry will tell you, so you can sacrifice all of your free time and your humanity for something that is no more cinematically complex than the B-movie. When I was a kid, I always really liked drawing. Unfortunately, I was also very, very stupid. I got mostly C's, D's, and F's throughout high school, and I don't even think I graduated with a 3.0. It was probably below that, I'd say. I always hated school. I hated anything that didn't have anything to do with art or band. I ended up getting into a state college, not any of the cool ones, the ones that you go to when you're too stupid for the cool ones, or you just live close by and you don't want to have to deal with dorm life. I was hoping they would have 2D animation, and of course they did not. So I took something that was like tangential to animation, but not really. It was kind of studying film and kind of wasting a lot of time at modern art museums, but you know, it was the best I could get at the time. Going to a 4-year university is a stupid meme, by the way. Your first 2 years are going to be spent doing essentially another 2 years of high school where you have to take general ed only, and you're not going to be able to take anything that actually relates to the thing that you're studying. So you're better off going to a community college instead of wasting a bunch of money at a 4-year. Finally, my first 2 years were up, and I got to take my first art class. I get to class for the first time, and our art teacher is this very leathery man with a low-cut white blouse and a bad toupee, who is handing out pieces of butcher paper and little gummy worms to everybody that walks into the door. This says,
"Okay, everybody, I'm going to dim the lights now, and we're gonna put the gummy worms into our mouths, and then we're all going to sketch how the gummy worms feel wriggling on our tongues."
I dropped out of college the next day. As a Chad Andrew Loomis enjoyer at the time, I could tell with 100% certainty that the longer I spent in that place, the more of my own time I was going to waste. The next 4 years were a blur. I don't know what the fuck I did. I think I got married. I think I was married for a little while.
No.
That's a story for another time. A very traumatizing story. I'm divorced now.
Marriage is nothing to them.
Up in your 20s, it's because you are, but so is everybody else, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's my sagely advice for you youngins out there. I applied to other schools that I thought might have had decent art programs, but I kept getting rejected because my GPA still wasn't good enough. Eventually, in late 2015, my dad comes up to me and says, "Hey, I found you an art school that doesn't care about that time you flunked geometry in high school, or that other time you flunked algebra 2. And that's how I ended up at Nomen. I'm still of the opinion that art school should generally be avoided in this economy, but let's say you must absolutely go to an art school. Like, let's say your parents are just all over your dick about getting that degree, like that piece of shit I threw on the ground earlier in the video, and you really, really want to do 3D art, then just go to Nomen. The cool thing about Nomen is that every teacher there is an industry professional, and you can go there to make friends with these people. Why is that important? Because the entertainment industry is one that is built heavily on nepotism. Heavily. Like, do not underestimate that. I'm not saying just go there and be a kiss ass or anything. That's really cringe, and people can always tell when you're doing that. I mean, go actually make friends with people. I met my best friend at Nomen, and you're listening to his music right now, so you never know when people are just gonna come and clutch for you. If I could go back in time though, instead of taking the full program, I would just take individual courses, because the cost of any art school was kind of crazy. That, combined with living in Los Angeles, was not a great time for my parents' wallet. Also, depending on what you want to do in the industry, some of the classes there just aren't necessary. Like, I had to take 2 rigging classes. I don't remember anything about rigging. I hate rigging, and I've never had to use it a single time in production. Anytime I was asked to do anything related to rigging, I just said, no, I'm not doing that shit, sorry. Cool industry tip: if you don't actually want to do something, all you have to do is be born a decently attractive girl, and then you probably don't have to do it. Other than Nomen, I would just avoid going to art school entirely, because if you go anywhere else, you're probably going to end up with a degree in advanced McDonald's studies. This mainly pertains to 3D though. If you're doing 2D, then I don't really know what the situation is as far as higher education goes. But, you know, 2D doesn't really rely heavily on different types of software the way that 3D does. So, you should just get YouTube videos for that. Like, I'm not a 2D illustrator professionally by any means, but I can draw and paint decently enough for the kind of stupid shit I like to post online just to amuse myself, and I was able to do that by just training myself via YouTube tutorials. So you'd be surprised the kind of things that you can find online to bolster your education for free. After years of grinding, of blood, sweat, and tears, in that time a homeless man followed me home with his wiener out because I lived in Los Angeles, I finally got my degree. Up until that point, art school was the hardest I'd ever worked in my life, and it paid off. The stuff I could make was pretty damn cool, and I'd even won an award just for being a tryhard. I wasn't just the village dumbass that struggled with long division anymore. I could use Maya. I was a juggernaut at stuff that I actually enjoyed doing for the first time in my life. So you'd think it'd be smooth sailing from there. All I'd have to do is go apply to jobs and go to interviews in person and in close proximity to other people, while shaking their hands and making physical contact in the same room, breathing the same air. My graduation ceremony was in December of 2019, and 2 months later, the entire world fell apart, and I was pretty worried. 2 weeks to stop the spread turned into 2 months, and I wasn't sure what to even do with myself. Suddenly, studios figured out that people were just as competent working from home as they were from an office, and everybody was getting these little coof bucks checks from the government, and people wanted to spend their coof bucks on movies and TV and video games because there was nothing else to do. And just like that, jobs were everywhere, and then my introverted ass didn't have to spend any time in an office pretending like I didn't have weapons-grade Asperger's, and that was really fantastic for me. But that's also the reason why there aren't any jobs now, but we'll talk about that later. Fun fact, I've never worked in person in an office before, and I don't know if this had a negative or a positive impact on my career as a whole. but I just think that if I ever had to spend time working physically in the same geographic location as the people I would eventually end up meeting in the industry, I think I'd have assault charges on my record by now. Doing art as a career for a corporation, for studios, for other people is just so soul-sucking. Trying to turn something that I loved into a commodity is probably the biggest mistake that I've ever made in my life. These studios know that you love what you do, that this is your dream job, and they'll take advantage of that because they know at the end of the day, you'd be doing this shit for free because you love it. Getting paid to do something you already like is a bonus, because you'd be doing this anyway. And oh, on top of that, what's this? You get the privilege of working on the IP that you like the most? Whoa! Now you're getting paid in bragging rights, isn't that cool? Now do 6 months of unpaid overtime or you're fired. And it's easy to replace you too, because there's thousands of other bright-eyed and bushy-tailed fanboys out there that would love to slave away for the big IP, for less money, and for longer. Dream jobs are a meme that corporations shill to keep you working a 9-to-5, for the most part. I think if I were a really famous and rich YouTuber and I could afford a plastic surgery to make my eyes less huge and creepy, that would be really cool. Like and subscribe. I found out pretty quickly that doing art for a studio is just a glorified office job in which the paycheck you get is incongruent to the amount of work that you're actually doing. You know, this is just my opinion, of course. I have friends that still love this shit, but for me, I've never really had a pleasant experience in this field outside of making personal work just for me. I have some stories. I'm not going to tell you which studios these occurred at specifically, for legal reasons. Some of these places can be unbelievably petty, and I'm not trying to deal with that shit. What I said earlier about 6 months of unpaid overtime, that wasn't an exaggeration. That was a real thing that happened to me. Within that 6 months, there was like a 2-month period where I didn't even have a weekend off, and I was just working 7 days a week just to keep up with this crazy delivery schedule that some psychopath pulled out of their ass. And I was making a lot of money, sure, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't even human anymore. I was just a workhorse. I was just a number on a spreadsheet. I didn't even have time to enjoy all the money I was making, and then eventually I would get laid off, and I'd have to get that money to last me for the next 2 years while the layoffs were occurring and gigs were few and far between. And now it's all gone. I always thought when I got a 9-to-5 job, it would be great because I'd have just a bunch of free time in my after hours, but the after hours often never came, and when they did come, I was just too tired to really do much of anything except maybe watch TV. Just a reminder for this little overtime in particular, I was getting paid for my job, but I wasn't getting paid for the overtime. I was just expected to do it, or else I'd get canned. Certainly, I could have quit at any time, but I have this problem as an artist, and I think a lot of other artists have this problem too. I just don't like quitting. I don't like giving up. And we've all made the mistake of thinking, oh wow, super cool, well-known IP. If I stay there, everybody in my life will respect me more. So anytime I got a gig like this, I would stay like a battered 50s housewife, geeked up on barbiturates. So in this industry, contrary to popular belief, you're going to be working with a lot of people who are not artists. And those people are going to be telling you how to do your job. One time I was working at this studio where we more or less did not get to have the final say in any artistic decisions. The investors / publishers did. Usually it's more of like a back and forth thing where the artists give the art to the investors and the investors look at it and they're like,
ooh, I don't know. How many monies will this put in my wallet?
and then the artist can more or less convince the investors that things are fine if they make a few small changes. This was not the case at this studio. One day out of the blue, about 8 months into the production, the publishers came in and decided that they hated the entire style of what we were making, and we were told to start over from the ground up. So every character model I'd made up until that point, bang, zoom, to the moon, on. I remember sitting in a Zoom meeting with one of these people as they were examining my character models, which were totally fine like a week prior to that, by the way. And this bitch said, "Oh, it's not so much the thickness of it so much as it is the curvature." And I'm like, in my head, what the f does that mean? And they couldn't like give us examples of the style that they wanted. And we had issues keeping a concept artist because these people kept coming in and not liking the concept artist. So it was like a revolving door of people who would just get told that their art wasn't what our production was looking for. And it got to the point where we just had people in the studio that could not draw, that were giving concept art to me and telling me to model it. And they were like, "Ooh, what if you did it like this?" And I was like, "Ooh, what if I didn't? If I was your mom, I wouldn't even hang this shit up on my fridge." Now you're probably thinking, "Hey, you're getting paid regardless. Just put the fries in the bag, little bro." Correct. See, this is a me problem that I have in this industry. I just can't phone it in like that. I do not like submitting work that I think is shitty. I do not like making ugly character models. I want to make stuff that looks cool. Having an emotional attachment to the stuff you make is rough and pretty counterproductive to your work, but it's just something that I personally cannot get over. I just can't do the, oh, just make the slop and get paid sort of thing. I can't. When I make art, I always want to do a good job. It's art. That's what it's for. It should look nice. This is the part where it's kind of sort of also not a me problem, because let's say you're working on something for Studio A and it looks like shit because of like the design or time constraints or whatever, and then that gig ends and then you're applying for work at Studio B, and then Studio B is like, "Hey, what did you do at Studio A?" And then you have to show them, and it's horse turd from the Pinocchio movie again. God damn it, I'm not an entitled little baby. I'll make the ugly asset at the end of the day. My entire portfolio at this point is full of ugly little assets. But as I'm doing this, I take 1d4 psychic damage every single time. And eventually, when there's no more HP left, I'm burnt out. And that's more or less how my last job ended. I wasn't even fired from that one. It was a miracle I got that job at all, because it was 2024 and all of the layoffs were in full swing. And getting work was extremely competitive at this point. It was an extremely lucky coincidence because I happened to have two friends from two different friend groups at the same studio that happened to both think of me for that role. Again, reiterating the importance of making friends. But the concept for what we were making was really stupid, and I was pulling all of this unpaid overtime again because I had this displacement map error that I'd never encountered before, and apparently neither had anybody else at that office. And this just made the ugly character that I was modeling even uglier because I couldn't fix it. And I was given like AI bullshit again to use for reference for some already pretty bad concept art. And I just thought, why am I even here? What the hell am I doing with my life? I entered this career path because I thought I wanted my 9-to-5 job to be something I actually liked doing, but I hated this. And I'd probably have a more fulfilling and fun experience counting the spokes on my own asshole. I wasn't making the stuff that inspired me. This wasn't Wall-E, it wasn't Coraline. They don't even make stuff like that anymore because Hollywood prefers to play it safe and make slop. And also, there were no other jobs anyway, so I just quit. But why specifically are there no other jobs? There are a lot of things that contributed to the degradation of the animation, games, and VFX industry. Everyone likes to point their finger at DEI, which, while I agree is a stupid policy to implement for both hiring and storytelling.
So, I'm non-binary.
I'd argue that DEI probably had the least to do with all of this. People just really like controversy, and it's the most digestible thing to argue about online for your average aggravated layman. But what's significantly less interesting to talk about and more difficult to get a grasp on, and what's probably the largest contributing factor for why things have gotten this bad, are larger economic problems and predatory corporate practices. Hey, remember earlier when I said I couldn't do long division? I still can't do long division. God didn't give me the cool math autism, he gave me the one where I have a bunch of Undertale shit in my house. Since I'm a big kid now, I'm gonna do my best to try and teach you how the economy works and why everybody got laid off because of it. So like, first you have interest rates, which apparently are like fixed nationally or internationally by the government, I guess. Or like maybe everyone gets together and agrees that the interest rate should be like a specific number. Or maybe the president does it. Bill Clinton said the interest rates are basically zero, so you have to do what he says. For a long time, interest rates made it so companies could very easily borrow a bunch of money to invest in whatever project they wanted. And so tech companies did exactly that, running things at a loss with no consequences, therefore setting the grounds for a bubble. And what do bubbles do? They pop. And then someone somewhere sneezed on a bat or like twerked on a petri dish. I don't fucking know. And then the coof was born. Like I said earlier, everybody got stuck at home with a fat check full of coof bucks. And the game industry found this golden opportunity to convert even the normiest of normies into hardcore gamers. Even my mom bought a Nintendo DS. Yes, a Switch. Even my mom bought a Switch at some point and started playing Animal Crossing. So game companies start to maximum overhire, as do animation and VFX studios, because this low interest rate, high fever shit affects them too. We've entered this attention-retention economy where everybody's trying their hardest to get you to perpetually goon on their app, or play their video game, or watch their movie. Unfortunately, everybody being stuck at home, plus supply chain issues, and then eventually everyone having to go back to work, created some pretty nasty inflation problems. This made Bill Clinton very angry, so he descended from Mount Olympus, where the White House is located, and he punished the people of Earth with high interest rates in retaliation. This means companies can no longer just borrow money arbitrarily. There's real consequences to all of these loans that they have to pay back eventually with the hefty price of added interest. Now companies have all of this labor that they have to pay for, but not all the free money with which to do so. So now they do what they must because they can. They cull the herd. Companies have this weird fixation with appearing as profitable as possible to investors. So when money is no longer free, the only way they can keep the silly little line on the silly little graph going ever upwards to appease the big scary shareholder wearing the big scary suit but secretly a very poopy diaper is to get rid of people. Getting rid of people makes you look fun and sexy to investors because they don't see it as destroying people's livelihoods. They see it as cleaning house and making things look more efficient, so that funny little number on funny little graph goes up, and if it don't, then I'm gonna get all poopy in my diaper. And CEOs aren't just gonna take pay cuts like they do in Japan to avoid laying people off. That just makes you look weak. Then you can't afford as many yachts. Caring about people in this economy? What are you, stupid? I'm trying to get my dick sucked on a boat. Financially, a lot of these companies are actually doing great, reporting record profits even. They just want to look good for shareholders, so they cut jobs. They're chasing a forever waxing and waning hype cycle, the goal of which is to come out on top with more money than you had previously. And that means removing all of the people that make the art for your product to actually be consumable. These companies do not care about you. They don't care about your art. They don't care about that time you stayed up till 5 a.m. trying to finish a character model. They just don't care. And that's why I can't be bothered to participate in this shit anymore. So what happens now? Where is the industry at large going? What am I gonna do with my life since I'm the main character of this video? Eventually these companies are gonna have to hire artists back. I just don't know when that's going to be, but they can't make a product involving art without an artist, because you can't just generate art out of thin air.
AI.
Wait. I was actually gonna go on to talk about reasons to hope for a better future, because these companies would eventually remember that, you know, they need to hire people to make this stuff for them. They need to hire artists. And then I remembered that generative AI exists, specifically in reference to a article published by the Animation Guild back in 2023 in reference to AI usage in the industry. So that was already 2 years ago. I'll put a link to that in the description, I guess. Here's some fun little stats for you. 72% of firms surveyed could be considered early adopters of AI. 75% of respondents said Gen AI tools, software, and/or models had supported the elimination, reduction, or consolidation of jobs in their business division. 36 respondents who had or were developing generative AI tools reported that generative AI reduced the need for certain skills, tasks, and responsibilities among staff. Here's my favorite stat among all of these: 47%. And this was in 2023, mind you. So almost half of the responders to this 2 years ago, almost half of business leads said that within the next 3 years, generative AI will be effective at generating 3D assets. I can't help but feel that even if the industry bounces back, I'm going to wind up as a glorified topology janitor. And that's if I'm lucky. Eventually they're going to figure out the topology bits too. Look, I'm not saying abandon all hope. I'm not saying don't pursue 3D modeling or game development or animation. When I was making that Chris Chan 3D sculpting video, I know I kept saying how much I had grown to hate 3D modeling, but as I was sculpting that stupid thing, I just kind of remembered how much I enjoyed it. I think regardless of what happens to the industry, there's always going to be a market for people who want to consume things made by human hands. People want to consume art made by humans because art is unique to the human condition, and whatever a robot spits out is just a soulless copy and completely unrelatable. At least for people like you and me. If a movie comes out that's completely AI generated, I'm not gonna watch it. Same with a video game, I'm not gonna play that. It's entirely possible that these companies will remember their humble beginnings and maybe reconsider the heavy implementation of AI tools to replace human artists. It's not a high hope, but it's a hope. If not, bullying seems to be an effective course of reciprocation. Like there was that one cinematic that Riot did that was entirely AI generated, and people cyberbullied the shit out of them on Twitter so hard that they took it down out of embarrassment. Normalize cyberbullying companies. Look, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to do about it, so I certainly don't know what to tell you to do about it. I'm just here to give you my perspective and to save you from this industry weaving this potentially unattainable, if not very distressing pipe dream for you. There, of course, is always going indie. All of my favorite games are indie games. My mentor from school and her partner made this really kick-ass indie short film, and now they've got the attention of investors, so much so that they're now going in full ass and creating an entire series by themselves. I'm personally in the process of teaching myself Game Maker. I'm trying to make a silly little shoot-'em-up game, and I'm trying to just make something from start to finish so I can publish it for, like, I don't know, for free or maybe for $1, just to say that I made something from start to finish, even if it's not groundbreaking. I'm willing to bet that if just a handful of the talented artists that are probably going to watch this video got together and decided to make something, it could really take off and turn into something real. No, really, hit me up if that's something that interests you. I've got some ideas.
Okay. I don't really know why I'm doing this. That's a lie. I know why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I feel helpless, and there's a kind of power in talking about problems.
Yeah.
And I'm also kind of narcissistic, so I want to share it with all of you. I recently made the decision to stop smoking in my live streams because I think it's immoral. A lot of the people watching them, they're gaming live streams. A lot of people watching them are kids, so I think it's not
good for you.
Moral to smoke while you're doing that in front of those people. But I'm not going to push this out to my subs, so... And I'm still smoking. And if I'm going to do something like this, there's just no way I can do it without smoking. So if you're a kid, let this be the first lesson. Don't smoke. I don't know what's going to happen to me 10 to 15 years from now. Statistically speaking, it's not looking good. But hopefully I quit very soon. It's on my list of things to do. But I apologize for even doing this, but I'm weak, and I need to do it if I'm going to do what I want to do here. I'll probably smoke 10 of them before this is over. So, I am a 35-year-old loser. And there's no getting around that fact. I spent all of my 20s and half of my 30s so far doing almost nothing productive. I smoked pot. I watched porn. I played video games. Smoked cigarettes, got drunk. And I never took the time to really invest in my future. My finances, skill sets, knowledge bases, all that. It's not that I have no knowledge or skills, but none of it's very marketable. It might be marketable for something like YouTube, but I'm old enough to know, and I'm old enough to the point where I don't have the luxury of time where I can bet on YouTube or content creation or whatever to pay off. I'm going to do it. No matter what I do, I'll make room for this in some capacity, just because I just feel like I need some kind of like creative, comedic kind of outlet. So, but I recognize that it's not the kind of thing that you can bank on making a living off of. And even if you get lucky, and maybe you're making good money for like a 5-year period, you know, that can go away overnight. So I'm not putting all my eggs in this basket only because it makes 0 sense. If I was 20, 25, I could do it more with less risk, but I'm not. I'm not even 30. I'm 35. I just turned 35 2 months ago. 2 months ago to the day, actually. And that's the first lesson. Well, the second lesson after don't do this, that I want to teach, impart upon young people. Although I have a feeling if you found this video, you're probably not that young. But in the off chance that I do get a couple of youngsters here, and I know that the 40 and 50-year-olds are laughing at me because 35 is young, whatever. Compared to a 20-year-old, I'm old as fuck. And the first thing I want to impress upon you, if you're in your 20s, 25, even if you're like pre-30, and again, I don't want anyone who's over 30 to lose hope here, because I don't think it's over at 35 or even 45. But what happens as you age is your options shrink. Your options rapidly fall away. And what you might have done in your 20s, maybe you take a couple of years, maybe 5 years to explore different career path options. When you start to near 40, you have less time to spend researching that kind of stuff and developing an idea of what you would like to do for a living. So it's very important that you do that work as early as possible. You're a teenager, that's great, 20s, whatever. Again, 30s even, like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm just going to roll over and die here. That is not the message I want to impart on anyone. For myself, I'm not going to do that, but also if you are over 30, 40, don't give up. It's not, trust me, the alternative is far worse than what you'll have to go through. Well, I shouldn't say trust me, I haven't done it yet. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to take the wind out of anybody's sails. I'm just trying to, really what I'm trying to do is just assuage my own anxiety by talking about this. And maybe as a secondary goal, I can impart a little bit of advice to people who maybe can benefit from it. The number one thing, don't smoke. The number one thing. But yeah, a big piece of advice I would give to you is if you're in your 20s, those 20s go by real fast. And you want to get a handle on your future as early as possible. Because every year that you don't is a year you'll never get back. And it's 1 year less you'll have to play with later if you do eventually decide to get your shit together.
This arms race, no contest.
So start early, because I can guarantee you, if you don't, you will regret it. I'm experiencing it firsthand. I guess I should probably just, like, tell all here. I'm 35 years old, and I live at home with my mother. And we're actually living in my grandfather's house.
Sorcery.
Not to besmirch my mother, but, we both kind of fucked up with our money, although she's doing a lot better than I am. She worked for many years in a good career, so she has money, a little bit. Decent social security, so she's okay, I think. I hope. But I've never left home. And I've never told anybody this. So if my friends see this,
Victory!
it's gonna be embarrassing. I worked. I wasn't a total NEET. Back in the day in high school, I worked in Burger King. Looks like I'm going to be working there again real soon. After that, I worked retail a couple of years, delivered pizza a couple of years, loved that job. Pay wasn't amazing, and with the... I delivered with my own vehicle. By the way, if you're ever thinking about delivering anything, pizza, whatever, never do it with your own vehicle. Because just take whatever you're making and take like 90% of it and just throw it in the trash. Because all that's going to go to car repairs. They usually pay for your gas while you're driving. But even then, I don't think they paid for it fully, but they pay for most of it. But the amount of money that you will spend, there's another piece of advice. If you're thinking about delivering pizza or whatever, always use a company car. Never take a job if you have to use your own car. I know that's probably most local places you'll have to use your own car. I'm telling you, it's a fucking scam. The amount of money you're going to spend on repairs, oil changes, and not even just repairs and oil changes, at a certain point, the repairs just become not worth it anymore, and you just have to get a new car. And that's going to cost all kinds of money and debt. And if you're delivering pizza with your own car, you're going to have to get a car real soon. You'll be lucky if that car lasts a year or two, maybe 3, if it's low mileage when you start. Not worth it. if you can use a company car and you don't live in a sketchy area, I didn't really live in a sketchy area. I had a couple of close calls, but you know, if you're not living in the ghetto or you're not working in the ghetto, and you can use a company car, it's a pretty nice job, honestly. You can make okay money if it's busy, but good luck finding that. That's a crazy dream job. And even then, who wants to be a pizza delivery man until they're 50? I'm probably gonna have to freaking do it at some point. So I delivered pizza. And then I went to work after that at the mortgage company that my mother worked at. She was a VP in the servicing department, and I went to work in the servicing department. I was a Nepo baby.
Ouch.
And for 12 years, I worked at this mortgage company as a Nepo baby in what is basically an entry-level position. By the end of what I was doing, I had more responsibilities and it was a little more complicated than an entry-level position, but not by much. I was only making like 21 and change an hour, which is not a lot. Working barely 35 hours a week. And I got laid off last December. The company's been doing kind of rough, and it's the market. It's horrible right now, and they're not immune to it. And I think the company like literally lost like half of its employees over the last few years, and I didn't make it through the last round, and basically ever since then, for the last 8 months, 9 months, I've been unemployed, working very inconsistently on this YouTube thing, and now the gravy train is ending. I'm running out of money. My mother can no longer support me. She's retired. So the reality of life and adulthood is finally starting to set in for the first time. And I have got to be honest, it is absolutely terrifying. One piece of advice I could give is, unless you're smart enough and disciplined enough to treat it correctly and maybe only treat it as like a stepping stone, do not take a nepotistic job. Again, I can't speak for everybody. Some, you know, you got a family business, like a family-owned business, and you're working for your parents, or that's fine, you know, whatever. But if you get an in a company, especially if you get an in their department with a family member, especially if they're in a position of authority. I don't even know how they allow that kind of shit, but like I wouldn't allow that in my company, but don't go for it, because you know, I worked at this place for 12 years. Basically my entire 20s and a little bit into my 30s. Most of my 20s and a little bit into my 30s. And I'm not going to totally blame the nepotism. I'm not trying to blame my mom here. But I can speak from experience, at least for me. Again, it might not apply to everybody, but for me, the nepotism thing, it just, the whole time I was working there, it was this extremely toxic environment. You know, I knew I didn't belong there. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I could do the job. It's not a hard job, but, you know, I got there from someone else, and as a result, I never appreciated it. I always took it for granted. I was lazy. I was late every single day, sometimes showing up 45 minutes late. They were pretty chill about that kind of stuff. Like, you can get in like 10 minutes late, it's not a big deal, but, and I pushed that shit every day, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It was ridiculous. Sometimes an hour. Ridiculous. I always worked the number of hours I needed to, although not diligently, but I would show up late constantly. And while they may not say it to your face, all of your coworkers are thinking it. Exactly what you're thinking. This fucking loser. And as a result, you can, like, even if you wanted to, which to be fair, I didn't, because I've been depressed and a pothead the whole time. Coomer. But even if I wanted to be friends with my coworkers, you know, I'd have to really, really work, because you're always in that scenario kind of looked down upon a little bit. Rightly so. I'm not blaming them. You know. And I did myself no favors by not really applying myself and just coasting the whole time. which just made it worse. Like I was just confirming their prejudice and stereotype. I was just living up to it. I was just, yeah, that's who he is. That's what he is. And I didn't care about the job. I didn't appreciate it. You know, I could have worked my way up the ladder a little bit, gotten more responsibilities, applied myself. I'm a smart guy. I like to think I'm a relatively well-spoken guy. I could have navigated the corporate environment, hierarchy. I even had my supervisor who fired me and I think didn't like me by the end of it. She'd only been my supervisor for like a year, my manager for like a year before I got fired. At first, she liked me, and she even spoke well of me to the owner of the company. She said I was smart and stuff. By the end of it, you know, when she got to know me and got to work with me for a year and a half, by the end of it, I don't think she was... She probably thought I was smart, but she knew that I had many other qualities that kind of crowded out the intelligence. Lack of discipline, laziness, depression, anxiety. I don't like to blame those things, but they don't help. They contribute to the problem. And it's ultimately your responsibility to deal with that. Like, you know, as in a business, no one cares that you're depressed. That's your job. You're just there to make them money. They don't care about your personal problems. That's your responsibility. That's another piece of advice. You know, your problems are your problems. And an employer, they don't give a shit, and they shouldn't give a shit. It's not their responsibility. If they gave a shit about that, they wouldn't be making money. When you come to a workplace, when you come to a profession, a career, whatever, you're presenting yourself as an asset to a team to help that team make money. And anything that undermines your ability to be an asset to that team, it doesn't matter why, it doesn't matter if you have a sob story, it doesn't matter if you really can justify it and give a good explanation for why you are the way you are, it doesn't matter. Money talks, bullshit walks. You need to perform. And they're not there to be your friend, they're not there to be your counselor, they're not there to be your mommy or your daddy that you didn't have. They're there to make money, and you're there to help them make money, and they're going to pay you some of that money.
Science, sorcery, death.
I lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I was talking about now. This is why, another reason, don't smoke pot. Another advice, don't smoke pot. So stupid. I haven't smoked in a little bit. Like 15 years.
Make things dead.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I worked there for 12 years. Didn't apply myself. Never got promoted. Got a few raises to keep up with inflation, barely. Didn't, probably. But I didn't not get promoted because they were out to get me. I didn't get promoted because I offered nothing worth promoting. And then, because of that, this most recent round of layoffs, I'm sure most of the department that I worked in is probably still working there because they had their shit together. A couple of them, I know, there was like 2 or 3 people who got laid off around the same time I did. And it was already a lean department. There's probably only like 3 or 4 or 5 people left. But, you know, I'm sure most of them, if not all, are still there because they're good workers. They're a value add to the company. And they deserve it. But I didn't. So I got fired, laid off, downsized, whatever you want to call it. Whatever way you want to church it up. I couldn't keep my job, but other people did. So, call it fired if you want. And then, about 6 months later, I turned 35 years old. And when I got fired, I had a small 401k, about $20,000, $25,000. And I cashed it out. I used it to pay off my car, which is one good, probably the only good financial decision I've ever made, is to pay off my car. My car has less than 70,000 miles on it, and it's a Toyota, so that could probably last me a little while if I take care of it. Don't have a car payment anymore. I do, however, have credit card debt and a personal loan, totaling about less than $10,000 in debt, but the last couple of months, and again, I am laying it all out here. You know, this is embarrassing to say, the last couple of months I have been missing payments. Still don't have a job. Why don't you have a job? Because I'm a fucking idiot. I have been looking. I just went to Cumberland Farms for an interview that I had scheduled, and they weren't even hiring. Isn't that great? You apply on Indeed. They automatically enroll you for an interview. You spend all this time filling out these forms. You schedule the interview, but you never actually dealt with a person. And I show up. Lady has no idea what I'm talking about. Apparently the computer systems, I'm assuming they simply just didn't take the time to toggle a setting to not automatically interview people. But either way, it's still on me, because I knew in the back of my head, I haven't talked to a person yet. You know, I feel like there's not a security to this interview because I haven't spoken to a human being yet. And maybe I should call them or something, and I never did. And then a few days later, I show up bright and early at 9 a.m., which for me is very difficult right now because my sleep schedule is so messed up. I'm basically up all night. And I show up there half asleep but trying to look presentable for Cumberland Farms. And
they're not hiring.
No interview. No idea what I was talking about.
Ready.
And for a minute, I was really crestfallen. Part of me was relieved because I don't want to work at Cumberland Farms.
Faster, scurry.
And I went home to my mother. And I was just like, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was distraught when I got home. By the time I got home, I kind of calmed down and was like, whatever. And I was looking at my Indeed resume, and I applied to a couple of places that were kind of similar to what I used to do. Haven't gotten any calls back on those. I need to interview for like 100 as well. I understand I have to do that. This is a skill set I do not have, and I have to rapidly learn. But I was looking at my Indeed resume, and I read it out loud. I'm not going to do that here, but I read it out loud, and I read it to my mom, and she listened, and we both kind of agreed. She, she told me, and I kind of agreed and felt good about that. It was a good description of my job, right? You put your job in the resume, the years that you were there, and then have a little blurb explaining what you were doing. And it's kind of a way to both signal the kind of work you were doing, but also the kind of person you are through the way you present it, with writing and persuasive writing, marketing yourself a little bit without being clumsy about it. And we both agreed it was a good blurb, a good resume blurb, whatever you want to call it. It was intelligent, it was cogent, it was comprehensive, although there's one duty I realized I forgot to add to it. I have to go and add, but it was comprehensive, it was clear, well written. It helped, it kind of highlighted some softer skills I have that are useful, like image editing and writing. And I went from, because like at this time I had really only been looking for like retail, because I had spent so many years in this job doing the bare minimum, being a terrible employee, the worst kind of employee. I kind of wasn't even bothering to look for anything adjacent to what I was doing. I was just looking for retail because I know I could do. I was selling myself short. I wasn't giving myself enough credit for my intelligence and my experience. And again, very low level stuff, but it's better than Walmart, better than Burger King. And I'm not trying to look down on anyone who works there. I'm just saying in terms of the marketability of skills and experience, it's better than if I had just worked at Walmart the whole time.
Ready.
So after I discussed this with her, my mother, who I live with, I made the decision, well, maybe I shouldn't set my sights so low, right? Maybe I shouldn't just go to Cumberland Farms. I'm going to have to work retail or something in the short terms because I need money. I need income. But at the same time, I've been applying to these more adjacent positions at companies, title companies, mortgage companies, banks, that kind of thing. And in doing this, I've, you know, my sights were set on something a little higher and more ambitious than retail. Because I realized, like, you know, retail, especially 35 years old, you know, you think, oh, I'm just going to do it for a year or two while I get my feet under me, and then you wake up at 50 years old, you're still working retail. It's really easy, especially if you make it work and you get enough jobs and you put enough hours together that you can pay your basic rent at a shitty apartment. And then because you're working so many hours, it's so soul crushing, the jobs that you're doing, the compensation you're getting. You have no energy left or ambition left. Energy, happiness, good vibes left to get out of it, to go to school, to set your sights higher, to start a business, whatever it is. It just becomes kind of enough, and you're also so depleted at the end of it that the effort required to get out of it is just too much. And the older that you get, the less energy you have, so that it just compounds and compounds. So, while I was in this headspace of recalibrating my abilities and capabilities, setting my sights a little higher than Walmart or Burger King, I'm not going to name the field, only because if I do get into this, I want as much as possible to keep my professional and my streaming life separate. So I'm not going to give too many details on the exact field. I feel bad about this because I want to be totally open and honest, but at the same time, just for risk mitigation, I have to be a little bit opaque about this. But suffice it to say, the field is, you know, business-oriented, kind of. Not business-owning, but business-oriented. And if you spend your time to upskill and all that, and you put in crazy hours for a few years, and you're really driven and hungry, you can make decent money. Not millionaire status, but you can make a few $100,000 if you're really good, and you go to the higher levels.
Quick!
But even at like the lower and mid levels, you can make, you know, high 5 figures, sub 6 figures, you know. Which is not great, especially depending on where you live, but it's a lot better than Walmart. So, I kind of considered getting into it.
Master kill! So be it! Slay, stab!
So then when you decide to get into something like this, you research everything, you look up all the pros and cons, you read Reddit posts by people who are doing it, and you know, I get a lot of mixed messages. Some people hate their jobs, some people like it. Some people say AI and outsourcing and all this is replacing everything. Some people say it isn't.
Ready now! Ready!
And I'm in this situation now where I'm 35. I don't know what I want to do.
Ready!
Do I want to do this thing? Do I want to do that thing? There's a couple of options. But they all require like many years of school. Maybe not a lot. Maybe you only need 2 to 4 years of school. Some of them maybe 5 or 6. Which is not just a time commitment, which is important when you're this age, but also it's a money commitment with student loans and, you know. And then I'm reading these horror stories about the job market, which I know the job market today isn't going to be the job market 5-10 years from now, but
that's right.
Could be worse. I mean, who knows, you know. So I'm in this position now where I'm 35. I have basically nothing. I have some time. Like, I'm not like 50 or 60, and even if you're 50 or 60, you could probably do some things. But like, I don't have, again, the luxury of trying things out. I'll spend a year doing that. I'll spend a year doing this. maybe I could get away with that for like 2 to 3 years, trying to not like just sitting around thinking, but actually going after things and seeing if they work. But again, by then I'll be 37 years old, 38. I'll be almost 40 years old, just figuring out what I want. I'll be way behind the ball. My earning potential will be crippled, and there's no guarantee at the end of it to even have a job waiting. That's the reason, like, even during my 20s, which now is like when I was 20, that's 15 years ago. Even back then, I did go to community college. I got a community college associate's gen ed degree. It took me 4 years to get a gen ed degree from a community college.
Wrestling gun.
But I didn't really take education seriously, schooling seriously, because, you know, you're told college is worthless, college degrees are worthless, you know. You can't get a job with a college degree. Even if you get a college degree, there are no jobs out there to get. So, and you know, they're all liberal lib shits in college. So I was just like, culturally, I wasn't built for it, and you know, I hate sitting in a goddamn classroom. I'm just not that kind of person.
Quick.
So I didn't go to college, really. I didn't really get a degree. And more importantly, I didn't get any real experience or skill sets or marketable skill sets in my 20s that I could now leverage in my 30s. And again, you hear people, you know, I've read these stories, I'm going to try to keep it vague, but people with like 15 years experience all over an industry, high certifications, high credentials, and even they are having a hard time finding work. So then I'm thinking about now at 35, just potentially getting into it, you know, not really being done with my schooling until like 39, 40 years old. It's going to take, you know, if I want to get a bachelor's, you know, it's going to take at least 4 years. And if I'm doing that while I'm working full time, am I going to get it done in 4 years? Maybe it takes me 5 or 6. But for a brief moment when I had decided to do this thing, a lot of the anxiety went away because I had direction that I was going to do something. But now I'm back to kind of feeling crestfallen. I didn't think about this initially. I didn't think about this until tonight, actually. And it's one of the reasons I'm doing this. I want to be a content creator. I want to be a streamer. I want to play video games. I want to crack jokes. I want to do stuff like this, talk, and just chill, and meet people, talk to people. I want to do that. I know it's hard to do that as a full-time job, and like I said earlier, that even if you manage to get lucky and turn it into a full-time job, you never know.
Doomflyer! Once more! Rattling gun! Skrenrika Bokrek!
Saw you, little homie! Here comes the party!
Breaking out! Hasten, hurry! Yes!
You know, which way the winds are blowing in terms of your audience. You can be really relevant and successful for a year, 2, 3, 5 years, and then no one cares anymore. You're too old, you get lazy, whatever, just your niche that you're in just is no longer viable.
The friendly fire is real.
Video game kind of stuff. And then I'm reading lately that Gen Alpha doesn't play video games. They're playing all mobile games now. No one plays video games, so I'm like, I don't think video games will ever go away. And gamers are aging with me. The average gamer is like my age now. But, you know, things like that can happen. Algorithmic changes. You say something you shouldn't, and you get demonetized or banned. And I want to be kind of a funny guy, so there's that risk as well. You're still working when you're a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer or whatever. There are other places like Rumble and Kick, but two main games in town are Twitch and YouTube, and those are often worked together in tandem with each other in the streamer kind of thing. And you're working for a couple of bosses, either of which could fire you at any time. And if you're trying to be a funny guy, maybe a little edgy, there is that risk that you want to follow their guidelines, and they can just turn it off overnight. You are fucked. So, while I definitely do want to do this YouTube thing, and I do want to create stuff, stream, crack jokes, whatever, I can't look at it. And again, if I was 20 or 25, sure. If I was 20, try it out, do it. If you get banned or it doesn't work out in 5 years, you're 25. You can do something else. But now I'm 35. So again, we come back to that. Once you get over that 30, it's like your time. You don't have time anymore. Your time, or you do, but it's a lot less. And you have to start thinking more strategically about what you do with your time. And things have to have more immediate returns for you to consider them, because more immediate and secure returns to consider them, because you don't have the time. You don't have the time, you have less energy. So, I was feeling really good about this potential new career path I had identified for a minute. For a few days, I was feeling really good. And I was like, I'm going to do this, it's going to work. I'm gonna do YouTube on the side. Maybe I can build YouTube while I'm working this thing and have dual incomes maybe or something. And then today I realized that being a content creator, especially not being a milquetoast kind of corpo advertiser friendly content creator, is a big risk. Because, you could piss somebody off, the employer could find the YouTube channel, whatever. Somehow, your content creator identity gets back to your employer. And depending on the job, depending on the industry, depending on the position, how high up or low down it is, that could be a problem. You could get fired for that. They could not like some of the jokes you were making, not like some of the topics you're discussing. And when I realized that, it kind of took all the wind out of my sails, because for a few days I was riding high. I was like, I think I finally have some direction. It's practical, it's tangible, it's realistic, it pays okay, it's a real thing. But if I pursue this, does that mean I have to quit doing this? Now, I haven't even really started doing this, I'm super early in this process of YouTube and content creation and all that, but if I go deeper, if I spend 4 or 5 years in school, and all the while I'm working on this YouTube thing and it starts picking up, what happens? What happens if I spend that time and money to go to school, get my degree, come out, get a job, and then I lose it in a year, 2 years, because I got doxxed or canceled or whatever? So then I was like, well then, I have to choose then. Like, I have to do this thing or I have to do YouTube. But neither option is viable. If I just did this thing and I quit YouTube, I might as well just kill myself now. I'm not advocating that. Suicide is horrible, and you're devastating the lives of everyone. And people you don't even know will be harmed. And it's a temporary solution to it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But, if I had to give up YouTube or content creation entirely, I would be miserable. I'd be working this job. I wouldn't be making a shitload of money. And I would always feel like I'm leaving my soul on the table. Like I'm taking my soul out, and I'm putting it in an envelope, and I'm handing it to my employer, and he's taking it and putting it in a drawer. And in exchange for that envelope with my soul in it, he gives me a paycheck each week. And probably not even a great one, to be honest. Probably just barely enough to afford a studio.
Uncontrolled asthma can lead to ER visits Lalo na pag hindi kontrolado ang symptoms, hindi regular na gumagamit ng gamot ang isang pasyente.
Hello everybody, it's me, Samantha Purvor, and welcome to Let's Talk Wellness with Watsons. Napaka-unpredictable ng weather lately. Minsan maulan at malamig, next day biglang maaraw at mainit. And apparently, these weather changes are not the best for those who have asthma. Kaya naman we invited a very special guest today to discuss kung paano naaapektuhan ng panahon ang asthma. Of course, before we get into that, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more health tips. Our guest doctor for today is Dr. Janeth Sampson, a doctor of internal and pulmonary medicine. Welcome to the show, Doc.
And I just can't do that. I cannot do that. But equally, I cannot just be a YouTuber. For the reasons I've listed, it's too insecure. The odds of even getting to a point where you're making a decent enough living at it, it might not happen. You know, it's very risky. It's very uncertain in terms of it ever actually taking off. And even if it does take off, it's very fickle. You know, at any moment you could get. I mean, there are a million risks to being a content creator as your main focus. You can get canceled. They can do algorithmic changes that just make it really hard to make money if you're not making absolute dog shit slop like all these shorts we see. Don't even get me started on the shorts, dude. I could rant about that for an hour. These dudes who will just take someone else's clip, some other viral clip that's just been going viral, and they'll just have their face above it, and they're not even fucking saying anything. They're just looking at it like... It's the most degenerate form of content. You could have hardcore gay pornography on YouTube. It would be less degenerate than these shorts fake reactor channels. Because they're not even reacting. They're not saying anything. They're just making faces, and the faces aren't even legit. They're fake, mugged faces where they're going like... They're pretending like they're holding in laughter. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. You've seen these. Because they're not even reacting. They're not saying anything. They're just making faces, and the faces aren't even legit. They're fake, mugged faces where they're going like... They're pretending like they're holding in laughter. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. You've seen these. They're pretending like they're holding in laughter while they're watching some clip that you've seen 1,000 times. They're not even sincerely reacting. They're pretending to react to a viral clip that's not even their own. It shouldn't... I don't even think it is actually allowed on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that kind of react content is against TOS because you're not adding anything. But they're everywhere. Don't even get me started, man. So there could be algorithmic changes. You could get canceled. You could, and also even if you play your cards right, you don't run afoul of the TOS and you manage to stay on top of the algorithm game and all that, you could just lose relevance. You know, you could just, not that I have any relevance now, but if I were able to build some, you know, you can just lose it overnight. People are fickle. People age out of things. Generations pass, and different kinds of things become relevant. And, you know, like, for example, think of, like, Asmongold. Is Asmongold going to be a big, famous creator until he's 70? It's possible. If anyone can do it, it's him. Because he's already built that brand, and he's good at what he does. But... for a lot of people, especially people who would just start at 35, can you be secure even if you were to bust your ass off for 10 years building your online thing? You know, is that going to be there 10 years from then? 20 years from then? Are you going to be able to live off of that? Are you going to be able to retire off of that? It's very fickle. So I can't just be a YouTuber because I need to make money now, and I'm not going to be making that much money off of YouTube in the short term, if, you know, at all. And like I said, even if I were to make money on YouTube, it could go away like that. So being a pure YouTuber just isn't in the cards for me either. just like being a pure whatever, you know, basic normal job isn't really a thing for me either. So I don't really have an option. I don't really have an option other than to just kind of do both things. Normal job, YouTube on the side. If YouTube lets me quit my job, great. But, you know, even that, it's like, would you want to quit your job? Probably not, because YouTube can go away. Maybe you can downsize the amount of time you're working at your job. I don't know. But, you know, even so, I was kind of back. We're back. And I was like, okay, I'll just do both. And fuck, you know, worrying about getting canceled or doxxed or whatever. I'll just do my best to kind of separate the two worlds. I'm not going to, no matter what I do, it's not going to be some super high power position in New York or whatever. It's going to be, you know, a low level, local kind of gig. So that kind of scrutiny isn't on you as much at that level. So I could probably make it work. I could probably do the thing and do content creation if I'm fastidious about keeping the two separate.
Science, sorcery, death.
But then, you know, so I was back. I was like, okay, I'm going to do both, and I don't care about the risks. I mean, I care about them. I'm aware of them, but I'm not going to let that stop me. And then I'm on Reddit again, reading testimonials from people in the industry that I'm looking at, and just like everywhere else, they're saying how terrible the job market is. And again, like I said, people with 15 years experience, high certifications and degrees, you know, they can't find work. And those are like the only people who can find work. If you're going to find work, you're going to be one of those high-level people, but it's even going to be hard for you. If you're an entry level, which is what I would be at 40 years old, it's real hard. Now, again, that's now. 5-10 years from now, it might not be that bad. I don't know. The trends don't look good. To me, it seems like it's just going to get worse until we have a political revolution in this country and a civil war. I mean, that's the whole other thing, is the future is so uncertain from a civilizational perspective that just throws a monkey wrench into any plans I try to make. So I'm truly at a loss here. I think for now I am going to pursue this thing while also doing this YouTube thing. But, you know, I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know if I'll decide to switch to a different path, but, you know, while I'm in school. I considered programming, but, like, again, programming to me seems like I think IT is the one, right, that gets outsourced and AIified, but, like, I think programming's a little bit more secure. But the problem is I'm not a programmer. I've never been a programmer. I'm not even good at math. I think I would probably like the work of if I had the aptitude for it, I think I would like programming more than this other thing. But again, programming requires a lot of math, and I'm competing with like 20-year-olds who are programmers, who've been into programming since they were teenagers or younger. Or at the very least into it since they were in their 20s. And I'm 35 and I'm just now, I don't know any programming, right? I know Windows, I play video games, so like I know how to do some basic, I could do IT, no problem. You know, I'm a PC gamer, so you know, I've troubleshooted a shitload of stuff on my own, I've helped people troubleshoot things with their games. But even as a PC gamer, I'm not super knowledgeable. It's pretty basic stuff. But then that IT thing, so like IT is like the no-brainer, but then like isn't IT, you know, that's what's getting sent to India and replaced with AI. And remember, by the time I would be ready to do it, it'd be like 5 years from now. At least a couple. And it's like that kind of, those trends, I feel like will just get worse and worse.
What's up? I'm Moxie. I'm an anime artist / character designer / ex-animator of about 15 years. And because of that, I've been really enjoying these anime games. I've been playing the crap out of Wuthering Waves recently, and I am very excited about Yuno. It's pretty ridiculous how pretty this character design is. They went all in.
So, right now I'm kind of lost again. I'm not totally lost. I'm still looking into this thing, which I don't want to name. And I'm still going to be doing this. And I'm going to be working a day job. Cumberland Farms, Walmart, 2 of them, 70, 80 hours a week. It's going to be awesome. And at some point soon, I'm probably going to have to go back to school, get an associate's. But I'm a little terrified, scared. And I talked to my mom earlier. She was pretty good, but mothers, they tell you what you want to hear. They're nice people. They love you. Helped me a little bit, made me feel a little good, but not enough to totally assuage my fears. So then I was like, well, the job market's terrible. I wouldn't even be making that much money anyway. I'd be 40 years old when I start really in earnest. Just do the YouTube thing full time. But then all those things I mentioned, YouTube is a long shot in the best of conditions. It's a long shot. And even if you manage to get successful, it can be very short-lived. And I would never be the kind of person who could be like Mr. Beast and just like be a beast at YouTube. Because sure, like Mr. Beast, yeah, if you get Mr. Beast levels, you do it for 5 years, you're set for life. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should be Mr. Beast, the next Mr. Beast. Because like if you get that big, you're set for life, and you only have to work 5-10 years, and you don't have to work ever again. But again, am I going to be the next Mr. Beast? Probably not. Again, I wouldn't make that kind of content. That kind of content just doesn't appeal to me. It would feel like working a desk job. It'd just be a soulless like extraction of money for something that I'm not really invested in spiritually.
Now, ready now.
So I don't know what to do. That's the whole video. This isn't going anywhere. This doesn't have a resolution yet. Maybe we'll find out in a year's time if it does. But right now, I'm just scared, lost, confused, full of regret. And if anyone is younger than me, if you're like 20, 25, and maybe some of what I said resonated with you, take my words to heart, dude. You don't want to wake up at 35 years old, still living at home, no real marketable skills, no real degrees, wondering if you're going to be working at Walmart until you're 75 years old, living in welfare housing with roommates. You do not want to be in that position. Now, it's been a little doom and gloom. I am hopeful. There is optimism. I'm 35. It's not that old. I know a lot of people who are older will watch me and go, 35, you're still young. Well, if you're also being realistic, it's not that young. It's a lot older than 20. But I recognize that I'm not that old. I can, as long as I get to work right the fuck now and figure out what I'm doing, which is what I'm doing right now, and this video is a part of it. I could bounce back from this. I'll always suffer. I'll never make as much money as I could have. I'll always be struggling a little, unless I hit the lottery or something. I'll always be struggling a little bit more than I need to. So if you're young, if you're in your 20s, get started now. Even if it's even if it's like a boring ass field or degree, but it's got good earning potential and you can handle it, do it for 10 years until you're 30, 35 years old. You're still super young. You have a decade plus of experience under your belt. You'll probably have some money. Save it, invest it, be smart with your money, so that when you hit 40, even if you don't want to continue doing what you were doing because it's kind of boring and you just did it for a paycheck, well, you're still young enough that you can kind of pivot, but you have experience working in the real field. You have some money under your belt saved and invested, so you can more comfortably pivot to something else that you'd want to do. Because trying to do that from my position, where I'm 35 and I literally have nothing. I have no money. This is so. It's me. I'm just being honest. I'm just trying to honestly tell my story here. I'm 35 and I literally have nothing. And that is a very scary position to be in. So if you can hit 35, even if you don't like what you're doing, you can pivot from that. And you want to be able to do that with some security, money, skills, education, so that you'll have that to fall back on if you have to. Or you can maybe transmute that into a new industry that you weren't involved in initially, that you do like.
Magic's ready! Quick!
And yeah, this is, you know,
Council's command!
I'm sorry this doesn't have like a big resolution to it. It doesn't have a big
March, scurry, yes!
happy ending. I'm still in the middle of the story right now, or yeah, I guess I'm in the middle of the story. So I don't even know what's going to happen.
Warplock yourselves!
I just wanted to get it out. I just wanted to get my thoughts out, express myself. For me, not for you. I hope it helped someone out there, but I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this just because I can talk to my mom. My dad lives in another state. I can talk to him. I'm going to talk to him on Friday. It's Wednesday or Thursday now. I'll talk to him tomorrow. So, I have those guys I can talk to. Don't have a lot of friends. I have a couple of internet friends, but internet friends, it's not the same thing as a flesh and blood connection. So, I'm going to do some more soul searching. Don't have a lot of time to do it, though. The clock is a-ticking. I may end up going for this thing I've been looking at. One thing I can tell for sure is even if I never get any subs and never get any views and never make $1 for it, I will be doing content creation in some capacity because it's what I want to do, right? It's really what I want to do. So the question is, well, why don't you just do that then? I've already explained it. Security. Age. If I was 20, if I had this realization at 20, I would have gone 100% into it, and I might have millions of subs by now and be set. But I didn't. I started basically at 35. Right? So if there's any reason to this video other than me just bitching and moaning about my shit and putting it on other people, the one thing you can take away from this video is if you are young, get started now. Because it goes by a lot quicker than you think. You do not have as much time as you think. But if you do use the time that you do have effectively, you can set yourself up to be in a lot better position than I'm in. So, I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'll give an update. I think this is going to be like my therapy. I'm broke. I can't afford a therapist, so. Talk to my mom, talk to my dad, talk to you guys. Figure shit out. Maybe I'll make something happen. But like I said, no matter what I do, no matter what industry I get into, if I'm working Walmart, programming, or doing the other thing, whatever it is, I'll always do this in some capacity. Because I have to. I have to do this. As much as I have to find a job that pays me real money, I also have to do this. So I'm going to find ways to balance the two. So, stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next one.
It's the state of limbo, where you're in your head, you know what you need to do, but you can't bring yourself to do it. You've given up on life, but there's a part of you that wants to keep trying. The action that you take creates the life that you live. And you get so caught up in wanting, wishing, all this kind of stuff, that you don't act. You have to have a whole-scale transformation of your life, which is surprisingly easier than people think it is. So today, we're going to talk about the self-loathing man of trash in your late 20s or early 30s. The only things he does are the things he used to do, and he does them less and less. He's built an entire worldview around his neuroses, and needs some time to think, constantly revisits increasingly skewed memories of the past, wondering what he should have done instead. Fixated on things no one actually remembers, probably not even to him at this point. I can't do anything. Defeatist who can never quite give up. This is beautiful, right? A defeatist who can't quite give up. Only boring people get bored, that's me. Slowly becoming actually the R word. So let's call it cognitive decline. It was always going to be like this. Closest thing to fun or new experiences are elaborate fantasies where he reimagines redoing his entire life centered around girls he barely knew in like middle school. Family are the only thing that's keeping him alive. Knows what a schizoid is, doesn't know if he is one. If I could do it, I would have by now. No one chooses this. Yeah, I was thinking about doing that. No, it knows it's not too late, but wishes it was.
Going! Ready! Ready!
It only hurts when I laugh, goes months at a time without laughing or sincerely smiling, in constant pain, either neat or wage slave, both equally hopeless. It's not like things can get worse. Accidentally once felt a moment of relief, has been upset about it since. And it's not like things can get better. Developing healthy problems justify crappy lifestyle. Developing health problems that justify a crappy lifestyle. Why should I do anything? Cannot accept what he's done. Nothing. Does nothing in response. He exists in a state of living death, thinking the same thoughts over and over, day in and day out, even as he understands that thinking doesn't help and that he needs to act instead. He is completely overwhelmed by inertia while life passes him by. He has lost everything but can't let go of anything. No reason to live, no reason to die, no reason. Okay? And then haunted by vague, dusty delusions of megalomania. The self-loathing man of inaction. So, I really like this part. Defeatists who can never quite give up. Right? I think this speaks a lot to the self-loathing man.
Yes,
There are a lot of people who struggle with this, who view themselves as people of inaction. For whatever reason, it's always been them. And so they're stuck in their heads. They can't move on, but they can't let go. Right? So you're kind of always like, it's the state of limbo, where you're in your head, you know what you need to do, but you can't bring yourself to do it. You've given up on life, but there's a part of you that wants to keep trying. And so it's this weird like balance of like, okay, I'm hopeless, and then one day I have hope, but you actually become afraid of hope, because hope means trying, and hope means attempting, and hope means hoping. And then if you try, and if you attempt, and if you hope, when those things don't work out, that leads to more hurt. So you kind of get stuck in this like longing for limbo, right? A desire for numbness. Because if you're numb, then there's no hope. And if there's no hope, there's no disappointment. And if there's no disappointment, there's no hurt. And at the same time, even when you're numb, you long to feel things. And occasionally there'll be like a ray of sunshine through the clouds where you have a little bit of hope. You smile a little bit. You feel a little bit of relief. But then you're scared because you don't know how to create that consistently. And so you view yourself as a person of inaction. So we're going to approach this. I mean, there were 2 or 3 ways that I could talk about this. My first thought was I would go through and address each of these like sentences and explain the mechanism behind that. Maybe we can do that. But I want to start sort of in a different place. So the first thing I'm going to say is that this is not a man of inaction. This is a man of an intense amount of action. See, this is the first and largest and most catastrophic mistake we make. When you look at your life and you think to yourself, I never do anything, this is categorically wrong. The reason your life is the way that it is because you are doing things all the time. May not make sense, so let's dive into it and be a little bit more technical. So this is one of the biggest things that the theory of karma teaches us, right? Actions have consequences. This is a scientific truth. There is a cause and there is effect. This isn't spiritual. This is science. So the life that you have created around yourself is not a result of inaction. It is a result of action. So for example, if I wake up today and I log onto the computer and I play video games for 8 hours, that's not inaction. That's action for 8 hours. And that will have an effect. If I wake up today and I do not apply for a job, I will not have a job tomorrow. So that every day when I wake up in my life, what the truth of the matter is this life is not a result of inaction, and this is why it's so hard to fix. Because it's not that you've done nothing. Moving from neutral is not hard, right? Very easy. A small amount of acceleration in the positive direction, if I am at neutral, will result in a positive velocity, right? If I start walking forward and I was standing still, I will start covering ground. That's not what happens with the man of inaction. Positive acceleration results in a negative velocity. How is that possible? That's because they are moving in the wrong direction. So it's not a man of inaction, it is a man of wrong action. When people hear about our coaching program, their first response is usually, why would I work with another human being when I can watch YouTube videos all on my own? Working with a coach is about amplifying your time and effort. We're great at wanting things and even making some progress, but we usually struggle with follow-through or have some kind of setback. And that's exactly where working with a coach can help. Coaches provide personalized support to home. So this is one thing that y'all have to understand. The biggest thing that you have to understand. You are always acting. There's no such thing as inaction. Arguably there is, but very few people on the planet truly engage in inaction. If you guys want to understand that, we can talk about it at the end. So here's the thing that I want you to understand. The life that you live today is a consequence of your actions. So it's not that you need to act more. It is actually, here's the big irony, it is that you need to act less. What you actually want is inaction. And this is why these people are fundamentally stuck. Because what they try to do is they try to do more, and instead what they need to be doing is doing less. Doing less of the wrong thing will move you in the right direction. So most of these people are running in the wrong direction in life. The right way to stop, you know, if you're at minus 100 and you want to avoid getting to minus 200, the first thing that you need to do is learn to sit still. Just stop moving.
No.
Stop doing...
Mali. Mamandre, wala namang pupuntahan.
The things that you are doing. Don't even try to do the right thing. Stopping doing the wrong thing is sufficient. And this is what's really weird. This is what confuses people. See, if you want to lose weight, you don't need to eat anything. You need to stop eating. If you want to recover from any addictive substance, the solution to addiction is inaction. Right? It's kind of weird. So, there's one other layer that we have to add on, which a lot of people don't really think about, which is that we assume that actions are physical. So this is the other big thing you have to understand. 95 to 99% of the actions that a human being takes are in their mind. I'll give you all a really good example of this. So there is something called obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, in which someone has obsessive thoughts. So they will think something that feels really overwhelming, like, unless I turn on and off the light switch 7 times, the plane that my family is on will crash and everyone will die. This is what we call an obsession. An obsession is a thought that is repetitive and usually intrusive and causes distress. That is technically what an obsession is. Then what happens is the compulsion is the action that you take in response to the obsession. So when I think these thoughts, I will act in some way. But when I act in that way, it reduces the emotional energy of the thought. The only way I can get the thought to disappear is by taking this action. So when I flick the light switch on and off and on and off and on and off, when I do it 7 times, then the thoughts are calmed. So now I am taking a physical action to reduce a mental action.
Exosuit ready.
And if we kind of think about it, thoughts lead to other thoughts, right? So this is why I like this principle of karma, because in the English language, when we use the word action, it has an implication of physicality to it. But when we say karma, karma is an action. But the key thing about karma is it's anything that is a cause that has an effect. That is a karma. And so if you have a thought, does that have an effect? Absolutely. So this is what we do in psychotherapy. If someone has, for example, a destructive schema, a worldview that is negative, we can alter their mind so that one thought does not lead to another thought, does not lead to another thought. Each thought you have is an action. There's a great lecture over on the membership side that we have about mental karmas, which y'all should definitely check out. There's also something, I think, in the trauma guide about it as well. Right, so if y'all are really interested in understanding and mastering this idea that each of your thoughts is in of itself an action, right? Because each thought has a consequence. In a panic attack, what happens in a panic attack? I have one thought that leads to another thought, that leads to another thought, that leads to another thought, that leads to another thought. And then these thoughts over time become overwhelming. They activate my physiology. I go crazy for a little bit, and then my brain short circuits. My heart can even short circuit for a little while, and then the whole system shuts off. And even I want y'all to really understand this. If you think that your life has fallen apart because you're a self-loathing man of inaction, think for a second. What are the causes of your current life? Self-loathing. So when you view yourself, when you literally have this thought, if we can inject these thoughts into any human brain, they will have a similar consequence. Self-loathing is an action. It is a mental action. It is a particular kind of thought. And those mental actions will lead to physical actions. And this kind of makes sense, right? If I think about taking a sip of water, that is what results in taking a sip of water. So this is where, and if you kind of think about it, right, if you're one of these people, what you find is that you're very drained at the end of the day, even though you've done nothing. What's draining you if you've done nothing? You've done a lot. You've done a lot of thinking. You've actually done a lot of physical action too. And this creates an inertia in the mind. It creates all kinds of effects in your mind and in your life that make it hard for you to act in the right way. So it's not that you have inaction, it is that you have an overabundance of wrong action.
Hold on, I'm gonna take a quick break.
right? You've created a really problematic life, and you've created a very problematic thought process. A really good example of this is if I have a thought of suffering. If I feel some degree of suffering, what do? I reach for numbness, right? I feel hopeful. And if I feel hopeful, this hurts. My mind attaches, be careful now, be careful here, okay? When you feel hopeful, your mind attaches a fear to hope. This is an association. When I feel hopeful, I have learned to fear hope. And since I now fear hope, I need to shut off hope. And so then I reach for a numbing agent. Take your pick of whatever suppresses the limbic system. Video games, pornography, social media, marijuana, alcohol, whatever. Take your pick. And then we numb ourselves. We numb the fear. And along with it goes the hope. But then we create a huge problem. Because when we begin to numb ourselves, we shut off the part of our brain that motivates physical action. One of the most powerful motivators
can fight you,
are
but would
our
rather
emotions.
experiment
But
on
there's
you.
too much negativity, right? So we have to numb it. And therein lies the problem. The more that we numb the negativity, the more of the negativity builds up. So the first thing that we have to understand is that we are not men of inaction. We are men of an intense amount of action. And if you really stop and think about it, what does it take to screw up your life as much as you've screwed it up? Right? And I say this as someone who screwed up my life. Like, it took a lot of effort to screw up my life the way that I screwed it up. It took struggle day in and day out. The amount of avoidance that I had to engage in was astronomical. The amount of, like, I used to sneak out to my mailbox in the morning to steal my transcript so that my parents would not find it. Because if they found it, there would be consequences. And if there were consequences, then I would change. And if you really look at these self-loathing men of inaction, they work really, really, really hard to protect themselves of the consequences of their inaction. I'm going to avoid these people for the holidays. I'm not going to show up. I'm just going to ghost. You work really, really hard to avoid the consequences of your life. When you shut off your emotions and you shut off the consequences of your life, what ends up happening? You propagate along the same path, right? You're removing the things that stimulate what you would call action. Make sense? So this is not inaction. This is an immense amount of action. A lot of action. Very difficult action. That's why it's so hard. That's why it's so draining. And the more that you numb yourself, the more that your trash can starts to overflow. And then you have to, like, you know, cover it up with all kinds of things. Now I'm going to fill a whole room of my house with trash. I'm going to open the door and I'm going to throw trash in and I'm going to close it up. So if you really stop and think about it, what you will discover is that you are taking all kinds of mental actions. You are running away from things all the time. All the time. You're running. You're so busy running away from everything that you can't have anything to run towards, right? So achieving goals, building a life worth living is about running towards something, not running away from something, for the most part. And then you end up with this life. So what do you do about this? The first thing is to do less. So in my case, I went to India for 3 months and did a whole lot of truly nothing to receive what the world sends your way, to start to respond to it. Don't try to steer the course of your life anymore. Let the fruit that you have been cultivating, harvest it. See, as you start to do less, the consequences will start manifesting. You have to absorb all of those consequences. It feels like it's too much, but it's not too much, right? All you have to do is actually nothing. Just let it come. In my case, you know, my parents would call me and I would avoid answering the phone because I didn't want to talk to them. Answer the phone, right? See, ignoring a phone call is an action. Ignoring a text message is an action. You look at the thing and you literally shut it off, and then you turn to something else. You do something to distract your mind, okay? So if you want to know why people get stuck, I want to show you all a paper. So this is from a section on recovering from trauma, right? So if we look at someone who, let's say, is a self-loathing man of inaction, there are all kinds of events in the past that have scarred them. These people are essentially traumatized. So let's look at how we go about recovering from trauma. So here will be eye-opening, okay? Identified 3 factors that are associated with both natural recovery from trauma and reduction of PTSD severity via exposure therapy. The first factor is emotional engagement with the trauma memory. In natural recovery, emotional engagement refers to fear activation that occurs when one encounters a trauma reminder in the natural environment. Fear activation has been found to be positively associated with treatment outcome. We hypothesize that a lack of emotional engagement would be associated with poor natural recovery following a traumatic event. Dissociative symptoms, such as feelings of derealization, depersonalization, during or following trauma, or amnesia for information related to the trauma, have been conceptualized as strategies that reduce emotional engagement, right? So when we dissociate, we are reducing emotional engagement. So reduction of emotional engagement. Several studies have found that peritraumatic dissociation is associated with more severe PTSD. The more you dissociate, the worse you get. Okay, now here's what's really interesting. Consistent with this hypothesis, individuals whose peak symptom severity occurred within 2 weeks of the traumatic event were less symptomatic 14 weeks later. So the more it hurts and the faster it hurts, the better off you will be. Individuals whose symptoms peaked between 2 and 6 weeks after the event had more severe symptoms. Y'all understand? The more it hurts, the better you get. And our self-loathing man of inaction is still delaying the emotions from middle school. Y'all see that? Interesting, no? So if you want to heal, you must stop. Whatever thoughts come, whatever emotions come, let them come. They're just thoughts. They're just emotions. They are not truth. This is another big problem that self-loathing men of inaction have. They believe that their mind is connected to the real world. This will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. This is just a thought. It is an emotion. It's not reality, right? And you get so caught up in wanting, wishing, all this kind of stuff that you don't act. There's something that's messed up in the dopaminergic circuitry, where wanting normally stimulates action. But in these people, something interesting has happened. So there are a couple of big problems that happen with self-loathing men of inaction. And one is that their dopaminergic circuitry gets miswired, okay? And it has to do with this kind of suppression. But let's understand this. So normally we have this thing called the nucleus accumbens, which releases dopamine. And then dopamine does a couple of things, okay? So we got to understand this. The first is that it induces cravings. Now, here's what's really interesting. If we look at our dopamine over time, when we have a craving, we actually get the craving itself increases dopamine. And there's one really interesting reason for that. So I don't know if y'all know this, but Parkinson's disease is a disease of movement, right? So they have things like cogwheel rigidity. They have difficulty walking. And the treatment for Parkinson's disease is something called L-DOPA. So we give these people dopamine. L-DOPA crosses the blood-brain barrier. That's why it's L-DOPA, and it's converted to dopamine. And then their ability to move increases. So dopamine not only triggers cravings, it also triggers movement. Right? So then what happens? So now I'm triggering movement, and this will result in action. And then once I act, or my action is completed, then I will get a big spike of dopamine. Right? So I want something, that initiates a behavioral change, and then once I engage in that behavior, I'll get a big spike of dopamine. Now, for people like this is what I've sort of observed as a clinician, there's another thing that starts to happen. For some reason, when I get a craving, when I get a wanting of something, right, and then I want dopamine, there's another kind of a neurological thing that sort of happens. So something about this wanting through associative learning also triggers an emotional response. And this is usually a negative emotion. So now our limbic system gets activated. So if we go back to our man of learning, right? So it hurts when I smile. Things can only get worse. A little bit of hope is a dangerous thing. So as this person strives for something, right? They have a wanting, a parallel circuit, some kind of association has been created in the brain where they have a negative emotional response. Hopeless. Now, your brain looks at the situation and says, we are wanting dopamine and we have hopelessness. So the brain, remember, the brain is not working against you. It's just trying to do what it knows how to do. So it says we want some dopamine and we're feeling hopeless. What should we do? Then we get driven towards inaction. But this is not inaction. We're going to do something like vidya. So vidya is going to suppress our limbic system and it is going to give us dopamine. You understand? You get 2 for 1. So I want a girlfriend. I want a dog. The absence of these things is going to trigger pain. And now our brain is like, okay, we need dopamine and we need to shut off our emotional circuitry. So we're going to do this. And now I've taken an action. Instead of actually resolving these problems, I've taken an action. Now what started happening is I recruit the endocannabinoid circuitry and I'm forming a habit. Now my brain has learned. So the next time that I want something, this becomes a behavioral cue that triggers a neurological response, which then triggers an action, which then satisfies the issue. And so over time, these habitual men, these men of inaction, are habituated, right? They have a habit of waking up every day and doing the same thing, right? Every day feels the same. Late 20s, early 30s. What's the difference? 6 years, 7 years, it's all the same. Every day your life is the same because you repeat the same actions over and over and again. It's not inaction, it's lots of action. And now you have built up an immense amount of karma because you have been engaged dopaminergic emotional suppression. You've engaged in this stuff day after day after day after day after day after day after day. And remember that your brain, when neurons fire frequently, they strengthen their connections. This is associative learning. And so now your neurons are very well grooved. It's like when you have a game trail, right? So you have a field of grass, and then a mouse runs across and flattens some grass. And then you have a rabbit that looks at the grass and sees, oh, there's some flattened grass here. Let me run across it. And then the rabbit goes on that slightly flattened grass, flattens it more. Then you get like a deer that walks down there. And then you get a bison that walks down there. And then suddenly you have a game trail. And it becomes really, really, really easy to walk down the game trail. This is what happens in these people. So how do you change? So we're going to do a couple of things. So there are 2 modes of changing if you want to fix this. One is the more classic way, right? You take small actions, go to therapy, work on yourself, start journaling, meditate, whatever. But honestly, with the people that I've worked with, there is a degenerate way to transform your life. And I would call this going unga bunga. See, small changes for people like this are hard because there's such a weight of like habit and all this kind of stuff. Like you gotta go unga bunga. So you got to go like all in on one strategy. I'm not saying this is the best way. It's just what I've seen. And people are talking about monk mode. Like literally that's what I did, right? I tried to become a monk, but I went through monk training. You have to have a whole scale transformation of your life, which is surprisingly easier than people think it is. So what I would say is you start to become a little bit more ascetic. Not a little bit more. We're going to go unga bunga. We're going to put all our points in strength. We're going to wield 2 great clubs. No cosmetics. No fucking flask. No fucking buff. None of this, like, optimize your life kind of thing and, like, none of that stuff. We're going to go hard. And the reason that we need to go hard is because we do not want to trigger those behavioral cues. So what I would consider, right, a couple of things. So the first thing about going unga bunga is that you need to go see a doctor. And you need to make sure that something about your life is not, like, problematic. So I would start with a medical evaluation. You may need things like mental health treatment if you've got a mood disorder or things like that. Going unga bunga requires no, like, significant medical debuffs. So I would go get a full physical and get some kind of mental status exam, get evaluated for whatever illnesses. Now, this is where we got to be careful, because I want y'all to pay attention to what your response to that is. So when I say go do this thing, what a lot of people will do is their mind will have a response. I can't do this thing because of this. I can't do this thing. I can't afford a doctor. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's hard for me, blah, whatever. I'm not saying that any of those things are true. This is where we have to, like, understand something else about the mind. Where do thoughts come from? So, when we have a circuit that gets dopamine and suppresses emotions and has habits, and I tell you to do something else, these circuits of the brain will then go and create thoughts. This is what happens in an addict's brain, right? So I want y'all to understand this. The thoughts in your head are not correct, or they're not incorrect, but the thoughts in your head, like, where do I don't know if this makes any sense, so I'm gonna try, okay? So just, like, bear with me. This is fucking weird, but, like, y'all gotta think, okay? Where do the thoughts in your head come from? People will say, oh, the thoughts in my head come from truth. But think about it for a second. I'm talking about the mechanism. Why does so there are times in your life where you've had good experiences and you've had bad experiences. Why do you think about the bad experiences? Why is it that that's the thing that floats from the unconscious into your conscious mind at a particular moment? Do you understand that a part of your brain is making that selection? A part of your brain is choosing what to open up on your desktop. The biggest mistake that we make in life is we assume that the things that our brain produces are because they are true. This is factually false. You can look at psychological defense mechanisms. You can look at cognitive biases in depression. You can look at trauma. You can look at associative learning. You can look at all kinds of conditioning. It has nothing to do with truth. It has to do with which part of your brain is running the show. Because your brain is trying to motivate a behavior. Remember, there's no inaction, there's only action. Everything you do is an action, even sitting still is an action. So which part of your brain is running the show? That part of your brain will float whatever thoughts are necessary to get you to create the motivation to move you in the direction that that part of the brain wants to go in. And this stupidity of the brain is evolutionary. So a great example of this is falling in love. So when we fall in love, there's a part of our brain that goes to the risk assessment portion. There's a part of our brain that calculates the risk. The part of our brain that falls in love goes and shuts that down. So when you start dating someone and you are madly in love, and your friends and family are like, I kind of see some red flags here. You're like, I don't see red flags. You're wrong. And then when you look back on it, oh yeah, there were red flags. I don't know why I didn't see them. You didn't see them because that part of your brain was shut off, because there was another part of your brain that is running the show. So you have a thought, but don't for a moment think that your thought correlates with truth. And there's a really simple way to understand this. A hopeless man of inaction, the self-loathing man of inaction, looks in the future and sees no hope. I am blown away by this. They're like, yeah, nothing will ever get better in my life. Holy shit. This is amazing. They're like, what? What do you mean? I've never met a human being that can see the future. Wow. You should use your power for good if you can see the future. No one can see the future. It's just thoughts. Now, those thoughts are there for a reason. They will give me justifications. You'll say, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. The past happened this way, therefore the future happened this way. If it worked like that, the stock market would be easy. And this is the really crazy thing. So we take a karmic perspective. The past happened that way is not deterministic. I mean, in a sense, it's deterministic. But the past happened that way because of what you did. Your actions created that past. You did not ask that person out. That is why you hold on to the regret from middle school. So the future that lays in front of you is not determined by the past. It is determined by what you do now. If you want a different future, take a different action. And people will say, but I can't. Well, now doesn't work. Where does that thought come from? Which part of your brain is producing that thought? I can't change. Because here's the thing. You guys want to know, if we're talking about a map hack, not an map hack, an aim hack, the part of your brain that is addicted to video games has one trump card to play. It'll convince you that you cannot change your life. And the moment that your addiction convinces you that you can't change, what does it get to do? 100%. I worked for a couple of years in addiction psychiatry. The most common cognitive pattern that I saw was an addict's brain convincing them that they can't change. Because the moment it convinces you that you can't change, do you just sit on your ass and do nothing? No, you get high. Do you see? So this is what y'all need to understand. Don't look at the content of your mind. Look at the direction of your mind. Look at your mind and ask yourself, if my mind says this, what does this mean? What does this drive me toward? What direction is it pointing? And what you will see if you are a self-loathing man of inaction is that all of your thoughts point in one direction, which you think is inaction but is not inaction. Because you're not actually sitting on your ass, you're sitting on your phone. Or you are sitting on your ass, which is an action. It is all of the justifications that allow you to act in an inert manner. And if you pay attention to yourself, you'll find there are holes for you to move out of there. The other parts of your brain are screaming at you. Let's do something else. Let's do something else. And the other parts of your brain, they try. They try to be angry with you. They try self-love. They try listening to a Buddhist podcast. They try so many things. All of these, there's 99 people in your brain that are screaming at you to do something else. The problem is that only one person has the megaphone. And so you continue to create this life every day that you live it because you act and these have consequences. So what do you do about this? So good news is that even the revelation of this is actually sufficient. If you guys want to know what the real answer is, the awareness, how can I say this? The zealous emphasis on awareness is enough to crack this cycle. If you sit and you look at yourself and you look at all these thoughts, the more that you study them, these patterns will disappear. Okay? I know a lot of people don't believe that, but I really believe that to be true. There's one really simple reason for this. Remember that a lot of your actions and thoughts are habitual. So the thing about the endocannabinoid circuitry, the habit circuitry, is the habit circuitry is not active when you are aware. The whole point of habitual action, it is action done without awareness. It is put on autopilot. You can't be autopilot and be aware at the same time. So if there's any autopilot behavior you have, the more you increase awareness, literally a separate part of your brain activates. The endocannabinoid circuitry is your habit circuitry. The awareness circuitry involves your anterior cingulate cortex. And your anterior cingulate cortex is also where willpower comes from. Awareness and willpower come from activation of the same part of the brain. And if you kind of think about it, that makes sense, right? So if I have a habit, it requires no willpower and has no awareness. The moment that I start exerting willpower, you cannot exert willpower without awareness. Does that make sense too? I want you all to stop and think about that for a second. Anytime you exert willpower, you are aware. It's like, I want to pick this up with my right hand, but instead I need to force myself to pick it up with my left hand. Awareness and willpower not only go hand in hand, they are neuroscientifically the same thing. Staggering. Yogis have known this for thousands of years. You don't need to fix your problems, you just need to be aware of them. There's a great, we have a video all about that too, about how willpower and awareness are one and the same thing. Okay? So awareness is sufficient. But we're going to talk about Unga Bunga mode. So what I would do is first go to a doctor, and then your mind will come up with all kinds of problems. That's fine. It's not that those problems don't exist. Those are just problems to be solved, right? So if you say, oh, I don't have a doctor, well, like, then you should Google search something in your area and sign up. Well, I don't have insurance. I can't afford a doctor. Well, then you should Google search, how do I get medical care if I have no insurance or I have no money, right? So each objection that your mind raises is a task to be completed. And watch what happens, okay? I'm going to tell you all what'll happen. Each thing that happens, once your brain learns that you're doing this, it will start to pull out other tools, right? So it's like you're playing SF6 and you're blocking all the time, so your brain is going to use a throw. So then suddenly you'll notice something very interesting. You feel tired. You'll do it tomorrow. See, the first, and watch, okay? Because your brain in this way is going to be kind of like the liquid thing in Terminator 2 that changes shapes, right? It's like the mimicked here, where once you start doing this, your brain will adapt. It'll say, oh my God, this guy isn't, when I tell him it's not going to work, it's not working anymore. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create energia. I'm going to reduce his energy level. Because it's running the show. It's going to places like your reticular activating formation. It says, make this guy tired. And the reticular activating formation says, aye, sir, we are now tired. We cannot do this today. And it will tell you this. Look at the direction. Look at the direction. You'll feel all kinds of things. All sorts of stuff. And then that won't work. You force yourself to do it. And then what'll the mind do? The mind will be like, oh my God, why didn't you do this a long time ago? Now that we're moving in the right direction, you should have done this. If only you'd done this 8 years ago. Then you wouldn't be here. It twists and it turns. It changes shape. And it always wants you to move in the wrong direction. Watch it. It'll happen. This is why you need to be sthir. Stable, steady. You will win. This is a war that your brain cannot win. All it can do is get you to surrender. If it fights, it will lose 100% of the time. All it can do is trick you into surrendering, and it will try time and time and time again. So this is enough, honestly. We'll give you more. So once you look at all the different things, just notice what happens. And the conception that I would even offer is like, think about it like an external object. Think about it like a demon that is trying to tempt you away from fixing your life. And it will use your brain against you. So what you need to do is just notice these things. Notice as much as you can. Notice the direction. Now, the reason we say start with a doctor is because there could be certain things that are physiologically not working for you. If you have anemia, if you have obstructive sleep apnea, if you have vitamin D deficiency, if you have a thyroid problem. There are many common things that will lead to low mood and low energy. We have to deal with those things. If you have something like a full-fledged mood disorder, you may need some kind of pharmacologic treatment, psychotherapy, whatever. So engage with that. That's step number 1. Step number 2, find yourself some duct tape. And duct tape out a square that is maybe anywhere from 6 feet by 6 feet to 8 by 10 or whatever. Create a space that is going to be your temple. Take a sleeping bag, take a pillow, lay down there. That is where you sleep from now on. That is where you exist from now on. Spend as much of your time as you can in this 6 by 6 square. We're going to talk about leaving the house. But in your home, look at all of the places you go that result in your quote-unquote inaction. We're going to stay away from these places. I really like a patch on the floor. So I'm going to study there, I'm going to sleep there, I'm going to do calisthenics there. You're going to exist in that space. Right? You're going to leave the place. If you need groceries, you need to use the bathroom, you need to shower, you need to go to work, like whatever. If there's a fire in the building, get out. But as much of your time as you can, you are going to exist in that square. And this is where you have to be kind of careful. Because your mind will want you to get out of the square. Oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. I'm bored here, so be it. The action that we are going to take is developing a resistance to boredom. We're going to tank that boredom damage. So in my case, what I did was I slept there, I exercised there, I did yoga there, I meditated there. So you start to exist. I even read there as much as I could. I also had a small table without a chair, so I moved out of there and I would do my work there. This is also where you got to go hard on the devices. So it's time to do it. Uninstall all of the extraneous things. Watch the direction of your mind as it tries to tell you, oh, we need this for work. So I'd say anything that can be done on a computer should not be done on your phone. If you absolutely need it on your phone, that's one thing. Remove everything else. Change your phone to grayscale. Uninstall all of the extraneous software off of your computer. Install an app that blocks whatever websites you waste your time on. Do all of these things. Right? So these things can be done within 30 minutes. That's all it takes. Fixing your tech is going to be 30 minutes. That's it. Now notice all the rebellion that will happen in your mind. You're worried about cracking and all that kind of crap. Whatever. Now we're going unga bunga. 99 points in strength. Nothing else. No cosmetics. No this. No, don't worry about that. Next thing that we need to do is fix our diet. Unga bungas don't eat that trash that you eat. They eat unga bunga food. Simple food. Poor people food. Rice, beans, vegetables. Maybe some seasoning if you want it. Food is no longer a source of pleasure. Food is sustenance. You're eating for survival. You're no longer living to eat. You are eating to live. So it should be nutritious. Rice, beans, veggies, fruits. Ideally nothing processed. Right? So you don't need Twinkies. You don't need chips. You don't need frozen food. I mean, if you need it, that's a different story. Frozen veggies. You know, seasoning is like fine if you want to do some of it, but you don't usually need seasoning. There's some good micronutrients and stuff in seasoning. If you want to use herbs and stuff, whatever. People are asking about meat. Ideally, less so. Some meat is okay. Eggs are okay. Don't really need cheese. Milk, I guess, is okay. This is unga bunga mode. And then it is the tolerance of these things. That's it. If you have to go to work, you go to work. People will say, but what about goals? What about this? What about this? What about this? Well, that stuff will come. You do this for a weekend. Do it for a week. Do it. I mean, if you need to go to work, that's a different story. If you need to go get groceries, go get groceries. But when you go to the grocery store, it's not about pleasure. And what I want y'all to do when you enter Unga Bunga mode is just notice your mind. And your mind will get desperate. It'll use all kinds of techniques to get you to stop. It'll twist and turn. If you develop your good awareness, you will see it panicking. And when it starts to panic, you know you're winning. You've always won. You can always win. The only time you lose is when you surrender. And then people will ask, this is another tool the mind will use. They'll say, for how long? Until you're done. Right? So this is another technique that the mind uses to foster inaction. It adds the dimension of time. I should have done it a long time ago. This is never going to work. How long do I have to keep this up? I can't keep this up forever. In all of those things, what is the direction? Abandon your efforts. One direction. You look at the direction. It's one way. Right? Now, you want to make sure your diet doesn't have things like nutritional deficiencies and stuff like that. So be safe, be healthy. But this is something that you can do today. Find your 6x6 square. Learn yoga. Do asana every day. Do pranayama every day. Sit and meditate. Get yourself a set of prayer beads and do Om chanting for 108 rounds. Very simple. Chant Om 108 times every single day. Now, when you do this kind of stuff, this is really important. The reason that we go in this drastic way is we want to remove all of our cues. So do whatever you can to remove the cues that lead to bad behavior. Uninstall Discord. Log out of the extraneous stuff. Go to a different grocery store. Very important. And then your life will be different. You want to transform your life into a temple devoted to you. Now, this word devotion is important. See, devotion is done towards someone else. So all of the actions that you take, you, the actor, is going to receive zero dopamine, zero benefit from it. Someone else will receive the benefit of it. That's what we mean. It's almost like fragmenting yourself into the object of your devotion. And if we really think about it, the self-loathing man of inaction is the other way around. Every action that is taken is for the benefit of the doer. So I'm going to skip school today so that I can stay home and play video games. That benefits the me, doesn't benefit future me. Devote yourself to your benefit and recognize that you will never see the benefit of it. Right? The person who is the actor gets nothing. This is what gurus were really good at teaching, that we've lost. We become so selfish. See, when we have a society that advocates for me first, how is your brain supposed to know which part of me first is good and which part is bad? If it's all about me, then video games, dopamine, pornography, drugs, whatever, that's me, my benefit, now, here, now. We're all short term and we're all about me. So what do we expect? There's no sense of community. There's no sense of the greater good, right? And why do we say this? Well, that person over there doesn't give a shit about the greater good, so why should I? Why should I do something that benefits someone else if it doesn't benefit me? If they're not going to do the same. There's no reciprocity, so I'm not going to do it. Absolutely, that's the nature of the world. You're prioritizing yourself. You're doing the same thing that they're doing. We're all doing the same thing. That's why the world is in the shitty state that it's in. Do something for someone else. There are studies that show that people who are depressed, who offer support,
Your
feel
man
better.
gods and dubious
What do we see in
master.
our mental health spaces today? Venting, venting, venting. It's all about my problems, my problems, my problems. I am hurt. I am wounded. I am a victim. I need help. Just fair enough. Like, it's my job as a medical doctor to help people who need help. I get it. I think it's good to help people who need help. And also, just because you need help doesn't mean that you can't give help. I learned this doing Boston Street Team and working with homeless people. The most giving people on the planet are homeless people. Crazy. You give one homeless dude $5, instead of buying two things for themselves, they'll buy one thing for themselves and one thing for their buddy. Most charitable people on the planet are homeless people. So going back to Unga Bunga mode, you do this for a week. And then you'll discover something. That the action that you take creates the life that you live. See, we think that our identity determines our actions. Those people are successful because they are winners, and I am unsuccessful because I am a loser. Our identity narrows the scope of the actions that we're allowed to take. That's the truth of it. So the actions that you take determine who you are, not the other way around. So if you're a self-loathing man of inaction, that can change today through your action. The self-loathing man of inaction became that way because of their actions. The self-loathing man does not determine their actions, it's the other way around. And you propagate it through your actions every single day. And this is why, like, a lot of people, you know, some people think I'm prideful, some people think I'm humble. I'm neither, I think. Maybe that's prideful to say, who knows? So I don't know if y'all noticed what I just did there. I'm aware, right? So I don't know, this is a statement from ego, not ego, I don't know. Let's just be aware of it. Maybe that's a statement of utter ego. Maybe that's the most egotistical. I am neither humble nor egotistical. Ha ha! I've transcended. So I notice. Hopefully y'all can notice with me. And then I just to be on the safe side, I make fun of myself a little bit. Let's just be aware. So I'm neither of those things. I'm just me. I'm the same guy who failed out of college, and I'm the same guy who was faculty at Harvard Medical School. Got an award of academic achievement when I finished medical school. It's the same kid, same guy, same human. The only difference is the actions. That's the only difference. So if you're a self-loathing man of inaction, take different actions, and then you will become something else. Hey y'all, hope you enjoyed today's video. We talk about a bunch of topics like this on the channel, so be sure to subscribe for more. If you're already subscribed, GG, and we'll see you in chat.
Alright guys, I'm gonna go now. Yeah, no, I think I needed to hear everything I listened to today, so that's nice. Bye bye. Bye bye. See ya.